back in, Moonmender back into their team, right? As their offliner. I think they're all kind of old school Han players. They know each other for a long time, so I was actually sort of expecting them to do well throughout this qualifier. I think the bootcamp helped them a lot to figure out their strength, and I think especially the latest push strats that they run in these qualifiers helped them a lot to
It's
figure out
probably
what's
also a lot of the delicious food that their manager has been feeding them. I don't know if you guys have been able to check their Twitter, but every single dish looks marvelous right there. So that's got to help. So that's for complexity. Purge for NaRv. This is the NaRv like we remember seeing from the past TI, except back then it was NaRv then. Yeah. But still that ragtag, a bunch of raw talented individuals, Fog, Korok, now they have Ush. They're just really individually talented. Is that just all it is, or do they seem to have also a bit of synergy that just makes it all work?
I think they do have a lot of individual talent on their team, honestly. Korok has really good performances every single game. He almost never dies, has insane KDAs. Ush farms very fast and plays very similar to Korok, but usually a bit more passive farming. And then on the support side, Fog has been putting up some really insane games on heroes like Disruptor, roaming around on stuff like Lena, maybe, things like that. A lot of Rubik games as well. And they even have really good Dazzle games on Bleak, or what is the name of Chad? Chad has been playing really well additionally and captaining the team in a good way. I think his picks have been solid. They do a lot of early 5-man while winning their lanes, and it's always transitioning really late. Even MSS has some really stellar performances, plays a lot of clock, doing Darkseer games. He gets a lot out of his lane, he pressures the carries, and then rotates in team fights really well as well. So they just team fight really well, have good laning stages, and it all transitions well. I dare say this NaRv squad is much better than the one last year. I think there's no weaknesses on their team, and they're playing very well. So I really like them. I think they're doing well.
So with that, and I just touched on it before, this matchup is going to be a best of 3, not the best of 2s we've come to this point. But this is big. Blitz, this win here secures their trip to Seattle, whether it be a direct invite and they win the best of 3 thereafter, or just going into the wild card. Do you think nerves are going to be a bit of a factor for either of these teams, knowing that they're just that one step away from being in Seattle?
I think for NaRv, there's definitely going to be no nerves at all. Like, they've done this exact same thing the last time. Like, they've gone through this. This is the second time that they're doing the exact same thing. It's like a movie script, but a sequel. You change, like, 1 or 2 actors, but they form, like, a month or 2 before TI. They show up to the American qualifiers with an ultra-talented roster, and then they got first or second. Like, this is what pretty much anybody expected, right? Like, there's not a whole lot of people that I think didn't put NaRv into the top 2. So I think there's zero nerves for them. I think when it gets to the actual TI, then they'll be like, oh, well, hopefully we play well. But even then, I think these guys are going to go in with the mentality of, we put almost no, like, real investment of time into this, aside from, the fact that they've been playing for 10 years. But we haven't been playing as a team, so if it goes poorly, who cares? But if it goes really well, then awesome. And then I think for complexity, they've got a lot of veteran talent. They've got Fly, who, he played with Fnatic with Honey. You have 2 players that played competitively in Han at the highest stakes, or 3 actually, right? Swindle, Moon, and Z-Freak. So I doubt that they're going to be very concerned whatsoever about the type of stakes. I think Ziz, from what I understand, is like more NA Dota based. Like, I've played against them, and NA Dota people don't break. Like, they're the cockiest people that you're ever going to meet. It's like unbounded confidence. And so I think that in terms of nerves, they're not going to exist here.
So if we actually look at the numbers, both these teams coming into this matchup, same exact record. They're going to be both sporting 10 points. They both managed to make it out 7-1, so they're right there neck and neck as far as the numbers go. But, in fact, that's a perfect segue. We can go ahead and look at the group standings so we can see exactly their journey on how they got here. What teams they upset to get to this point. For NaRv, they started out, they got a nice, well, what you could say is an easy start. So they led in 2-0, taking out Leviathan. Then after that, 1-1 to Wheel. Then 2-0 to Not Today, which is another story in itself. Many people were expecting Not Today to be like that second team, but they might have been underperforming a bit. And then they rounded it out, going even 2-0 against Void Boys, who were right up there, right by their side. They were expecting maybe a much closer match, but no. NaRv beat them out and just struggled on through. What would you say, Hani, in that Group A, was there any sort of surprise here as far as, NaRv just kind of blowing past these teams, or were one of these teams you were expecting a bit more to just give them a bit more of a struggle?
I mean, to me, NaRv was the clear favorite.
Okay.
I kind of said it in the very start of this qualifier that I would put them on the very top. And other than that, I guess you could argue that Not Today could have performed better, but they struggled a lot at the summit. And I think that it's really hard to tell because all these teams have had very little history with the current patch, and they're like Void Boys as well as Leviathan or Not Today could have been up there.
Yeah, I think it's also surprising for Not Today because usually we're expecting them to play from home with a little bit of ping, but they have actually been playing from in the States, low ping, good machines, and still it just didn't work out. Maybe it's not their patch. We'll never know. On the other side for Complexity, their journey to make it here, and if we can look over the Group B standings, they did start out going 2-0 against Root, then 1-1 to Mouse Sports. 2-0 to Unknown, and then 2-0 to E-Hug here. So Purge with that. Maybe a lot of people were anticipating Mouse Sports to almost blow past all these other teams, but they ended up having a bit of a struggle. With CoL, they ended up going 1-1, and we also saw that huge series between Root Gaming where they had those 2 back-to-back 70-minute plus matches and giving a run for their money. So do you think if it comes down to it, Complexity just seemed to be the better team over Mouse Sports, or it just kind of happened to work out in their favor here?
I mean, the difference is pretty small here. I guess it is one best of 2 that ended up with Mouse Sports losing 2 there, but I just look at those little numbers on the scoreboard and I'm like, it's such a small, subtle difference. Even Root Gaming, for example, they had a lot of really good games, and I felt like they had good performances, but they just didn't quite get the wins where they needed them. So I think this group was maybe a little bit more even in a lot of ways, Unknown as well. Could have just taken a couple more wins as well and been in Mouse Sports' position. Everything was a lot closer in this group, I feel.
So with that, when I was crunching the actual data and the numbers, and I wanted to see, breaking down this match, looking over maybe some of the records coming into this point, you're looking at Ush and Korok being almost top 2, top 3 as far as GPM, as far as getting kills, last hits, XP per minute. And then I look over for Complexity, and it's not quite there. Maybe occasionally, like, Ziz will be second best for lowest death count, but for everyone else, they're kind of low. So that kind of caught me off guard a bit. Is it just kind of that NaRv have these 2-star players that kind of get it all done? And why is it Complexity don't have those kind of numbers? Do they maybe move better as a team, or they just maybe draft better? It kind of got me perplexed a bit. Blitz, any kind of idea?
I'm actually so glad that you brought this up because I was kind of hoping that you would segue into something like this, but it's just the dichotomy in playstyles. For NaRv, what they want to do is win the lanes. They have the individual talent, but they haven't been playing long enough to have developed that close chemistry, that teamwork. But they know where they're strong, and that's an individual talent. Like if you had to assemble an all-star roster of the players that aren't on EG, for example, this would be as close to it as you would get pretty much, right? Like swap in 1 or 2 players, and so these guys know that, and they know that their strengths come from the individual plays. Like they've put such a large focus on things like laning, outplaying people simply. Yeah, they perform well in team fights, but that's not what they're shooting for. They're just trying to dominate you in the lane and then roll with momentum. Like all of their players are sort of snowballing. So when they're doing well, they're doing really well. You see players like Korok, they start 4-0. They're not going to end 4-5. They're going to end 10-0, and it's going to feel like you're playing against a freight train. On the flip side, though, when you play against a team like Complexity, you're not too impressed sometimes at how they do in the lane. Sometimes they can be a little bit weak mechanically, or Moon will make a YOLO play and he'll try to 1v3 people and go for the outplay. And so I think that their laning phase is a little bit weaker, but their team play overall is a lot stronger, I feel. They have a lot more focus to team fights. Like we casted a game of Unknown versus CoL, and I thought to myself, okay, CoL's getting outplayed in the lanes, but it felt like Unknown were kind of like NaRv. They relied on their individual skill, and when push came to shove, they didn't really have a game plan, whereas Complexity constantly looks for the next move. At the very least, they're like, okay, we're down. What are we actually meant to do? What are our objectives? And it seems like they kind of move as a unit a little bit better. And so even though the scores don't reflect it, and they might not look like the best team on paper, as a group, they seem to work really, really well together.
Would you agree with that, Honey? Would you think that Complexity just seemed to be more in tune, more uniform together to kind of get the teamwork done, and might just kind of struggle a little bit in the laning phase where maybe NaRv really thrive, and then try to take advantage of NaRv when their team fight might not be as synergetic? Do you think that about the same thing?
I think it goes sort of that direction. The only addition I have is just in terms of what kind of draft they go into. For example, like when you were talking about the stats, right? I think the kind of draft that CoL always attempts is something like DK Dazzle. They have shown that quite a lot of times. It's just they have this group push, whereas you will not get individually that farmed, right? But you just you play your team play kind of style, right? You go early and you push together with the Dragon Knight. And I think in comparison to NaRv here, who I think they played in a lot of their games, they had Gyrocopter and Clock, one of the two. And Gyrocopter is just, he's lane dominance. Same with Clockwork. He's more of a, individual playmaker. It's not just you have your They both bring 5 and 5, but it's just not, you don't really run a push strat in that sense. But in this, like the one point that William made is, I think in terms of individual play, I totally agree. And I think it makes a lot of sense. It's just the addition in terms of draft.
I'm glad you're talking a bit about the picks because I want to go into that next. If you break down the actual numbers, we all know just based on this qualifier alone, Queen of Pain, 100% picked or banned. We're expected to see a lot of that. More so probably a ban coming out from Complexity. We all know what Korok can do with the Queen of Pain. It's pretty devastating. But then you also have to consider all these other top options. The Gyrocopter, something else that they have managed to pick up. He's second, 97.5% of the time will be picked or banned. Somehow, some way, NaRv have landed it 7 out of their 8 games. And they've been successful 6 out of those games. So you have to consider banning that. But then you let him through, or you ban him out rather, you're going to be letting something like a Wisp through. So NaRv have a lot of options to go for here. So Purge, coming into this draft, what are they going to have to look to ban out first? Are they going to try to keep the pace they've had, or is this the time now for these teams to pull out something different where maybe now it's time to look towards that Drow Visage maybe what was kind of looked over up to this point?
They may focus on something like that, but I think it's more realistic to expect, if not Gyrocopter, a Leshrac in swapping that out. We've seen Gyro being played by Korok, by Ush as well, but I feel like their core picks can be pretty flexible. They can grab a hard carry, they can put on either one. We've seen them play Leshrac as a core position in combo with something heavy nuking in the lane to get good dual lanes. But I think the really contested pick that's going to happen this series is going to be Dazzle, because we did see Chad play Dazzle in many games previously in the tournament, and what they do is they win their lanes. I'm talking about NaRv here. They win their lanes, and they adjust to a really safe pushing style with their gold advantage. And they put one core up in front like the Gyrocopter, and he can hit the tower, and they sit Dazzle far back in really good positions on everybody, and they do the slow siege. I think NaRv's very, very good at the slow siege, and I think Dazzle is a very core component of that. And we have seen Chad play other heroes on heroes like Sand King and stuff like that, but usually it's more defensive with him on a Dazzle, zoning the offlaner, getting lane advantage in the transition and pushing. And because Complexity also picks that hero a lot, I think that's definitely a hero we're going to see contested in the first round. I don't think NaRv is as reliant on Gyrocopter, though they do have a big win rate. They definitely can play other stuff and potentially win games with it.
Now, would you agree with that, Blitz, with your good friend over here, Purge, that we will probably see something like that, but they always have something to fall back on? Or is this maybe one of those times where it is a best of 3 after all? Maybe you reach in that back pocket and you pull out something a little bit spicy right there? Or do you think kind of you stick with your guns and what works? For NaRv, it's been, so far, Gyro, Disruptor, and Clockwork when they can get it. For Complexity, Rubik, DK, and Dazzle. Very different from both teams.
I think it depends on the first game entirely. I think the first game, you pick what you've been playing throughout the entire tournament. If you get absolutely crushed at that point, obviously you're going to have to make some adjustments, and your bans will alter based on that. But I think the reason why, for example, NaRv get Gyrocopter so often is because you don't want to give... I mean, Korok or Ush can both play the Tiny Fogged, or Chad can both play the Wisp, and that's one of the most dangerous combos in Dota, and I feel like that's the main reason why you're not seeing the Gyro ban, is because at the same time, you don't want to give a team like NaRv, or actually any team nowadays, Queen of Pain, right? I feel like aside from the Dazzle, that's going to be the #1 ban, is like, okay, if we don't have first pick, then we're going to ban Queen of Pain. If we have first pick, we'll try to get her and she'll get banned anyways, because the hero right now is so versatile, and I've seen both teams play it so well. The Korok Queen of Pain is so amazing. The Swindle Melons Queen of Pain, I saw him play it against Mao's actually, and he did a really good job. And if he's able to perform like that on that hero against a team like Mao's, then he's going to feel really comfortable throughout the entire tournament. And so I think that Queen of Pain, Dazzle, I agree with Purge. I think Wisp, for the most part, will be banned out by both teams. So I think it really just depends on how the first game goes.
Now, I might want to get your opinion from everyone for this next question here. For both of these teams, who do we need to look out for? Like, what lane is going to be most important? Is it coming down to Korok being able to perform for NaRv and being able to succeed and maybe putting the team on his back? Is it the supports? Fogged have been doing a great job, setting up those plays for those cores. So is it more on them to kind of be the ones to be the assist, the Steve Nash, as I like to say? Or, on the side of Complexity, is it Fly, who's now in that new support position, also kind of setting things up? Or are we going to be looking, as Blitz said, to Swindle Melons to be able to perform as strong as he's had, like against Mouse Sports? Hani, I'll start with you.
I think for the side of NaRv, I would definitely say the performance of MSS as well as Korok are going to be very important. I think throughout this tournament, they have performed very stellar. Both have had a really good showing. And I think for the early momentum, I think MSS is going to be very important. And I feel like Korok is one of those players that if he doesn't have his game, then it can backfire at the same time. And on the side of CoL, I would say overall, I feel like there wasn't really one shining factor. I think it was a team effort on their side. So I wouldn't particularly find a person that I would point out if that game for him doesn't go as expected, that they will have a bad time. But you can always say that a mid position has a lot of input. Like usually if mid goes wrong for a team, it's tough to come back.
I could agree with that, definitely. Purge, you feel the same way here? Korok and kind of MSS to be those ones to step it up. I remember specifically not long ago we saw MSS playing a Clockwork, and it was ridiculous. So they always love to kind of get that respect band there.
Yeah, I think those are the two most important lanes. They usually draft very safe tri-lane supports, which kind of protects you from being aggressively tri-lane. So usually the tri-lane is played pretty standard. They'll zone with Chad, and you won't see much there. The enemy offlaner won't get very much usually, and then Ush gets pretty much whatever he wants. So I think the critical lanes will be, can MSS be zoned properly, and will their mid heroes still do okay and succeed in avoiding ganks and potentially having rotations and getting ganks themselves. So definitely mostly for the mid lane and for the off lane for NaRv is what I'm expecting to see as the important lanes.
And Blitz, anything to add on to that? He touched mostly on NaRv. Maybe for complexity, would you agree with Hani? They're very team-based, so where one might falter a bit, they have everyone else there to back them up and really step up their game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think in the beginning I said as well, I think complexity is a team fight team. They look to go group as a group, go as 5, go for Roshan, take objectives one by one. They play very formulaic. But for me personally, I think the mid matchup is what matters the most because it's a difference in the play styles. Like, for example, when I watch Korok play the mid lane, he plays up. He's in your face. He's aggressive. He's looking for the kills. He's not looking to trade CS with you. He's actively looking to dominate the lane. For example, I think that Swindle Melons is a little bit more passive. He just tries to trade farm. He tries to play evenly. And I think it's, like Hani said, it's dependent on the draft because he plays more defensive heroes. Like, he plays heroes like Dragon Knight where you're just trying to trade farm. You're not really going to have kill opportunities, but you're playing towards the mid game a lot more than just trying to win your lane.
I can agree with that. All right. Now I'm going to go to the part where I say predictions, gentlemen. So if you had to put your tasty little hats and rares out there, how do you anticipate this series could go? Are we going to be going the full best of 3 stretch? Is this going to be a 2-0 wipe from one side? What are we looking to expect here?
I think, for me, for sure, NaRv is still the number 1. But generally saying, I think it's important if CoL wants to have a shot at this series, to me, they have to win the first game. I think it's from the experience point where NaRv has been exactly in this position before. It doesn't really matter if they lose or not. I think they would go in the second game pretty much the same way. But with CoL, I feel like they need that momentum going for them, so they have like a kind of a, like a confirmation for their strat.
Purge?
I'm going to say 2-0 for NaRv. I think they're much more likely to win their lanes and transition it into very safe and smart defense versus a 5-man push. I think that they're experienced enough where they can handle the 5-man that Complexity is putting out, since that is their typical strategy. So I'm pretty confident that NaRv will take it. If not a 2-0, probably a 2-1. I'd be a little surprised if Complexity sweeped them.
And Blitz. And after this, we're actually going to get a little bit of input from the Twitch chat, apparently, on what their predictions might be. So how are you feeling about this matchup?
My intuition for some reason says that Complexity is going to win. But for me personally, I think individual skill for this patch is really important because the laning phase matters so much. Talking to the pros here, talking to EGM, I think he thought the same as me that if you can snowball into the laning phase, it feels like it's so hard to throw away your lead nowadays. Like, there's not a whole lot you can do if you just play defensively after you win your lanes, right? Defend the towers and then just kind of block any sort of Roshan attempts, and then you use that lead to transition into playing aggressively into the jungle and stuff like that. And I think that NaRv can do that a lot better than Complexity can. So intuition says that Complexity will win, but I still think it's going to be 2-0 NaRv.
All right, sounds good. And at this moment, we're currently actually loading into the game. A few minutes off schedule, but not too much. Producer, let me know that maybe we'll be able to see the Twitch predictions here. There it is right there. They're feeling a bit towards the Complexity side.
That's pretty even.
Why would that be, I wonder? Everyone seems to be a big fan of NaRv and their big flashy plays and stuff like that. Complexity was probably a team, at least everyone I talked with here was not in their top 3. This was the team coming into this that had the most roster shuffles, and finally just before this felt like they kind of got something going together, but it's clearly something that's been working. So I don't know. Is there a lovable side of them that maybe the public is like, I'm with Complexity on this one? That's just a bit funny to me.
I think maybe the Han side is strong in that.
Oh,
it could
coming
be
from a Han player, of course.
It could be the potentially the fan base that just is behind them. I mean, personally, I have interest in, like, to me, either or, if they win, it wouldn't be a big deal for me. I would be fine.
Not
Right?
biased for your ex-teammate?
Yeah,
at
it's
all?
it's just that I thought NaRv would go through for like was saying,
Mhm.
but at the same time, if Complexity manages to win this series, I would be happy as well. So either or is fine. Why they choose to go with that prediction, or why is the Twitch chat so close to each other, or even going towards Complexity? I'm a bit surprised personally.
I am too. Looks like we had a failed load at start, so I'm going to get a bit fun with our questions here, gentlemen. Purge, what was your favorite NaRv performance so far in the group stages? Now, just to remind you so you can get a bit of refresh in case you can't remember, we've had a lot of Dota. All right, everyone. It's 24/7 Dota here, so they kind of can all come together. They had a 2-0 matchup against Leviathan, 1-1 against Wheel, 2-0 against Not Today, and then that 2-0 against Void Boys. Was there any sort of particular performance, or maybe a game where Korok really thrived the most that made it stand out? Is there a memorable moment you've had for NaRv? And I'm going to come to you, Blitz, for Complexity, so get ready.
I don't remember the exact game it was, but I just remember a lot of their performances since they did a lot of the same heroes. Just seeing Korok play Gyrocopter really well, Ush as well, getting tons of farm. All the Dazzle games stand out. There was one where Chad was able to farm an Aghanims. He actually had core level farm. He had like 160 CS on a Dazzle, and he had so many levels and items. He actually put 4 skill points into Poison Touch, something you almost never see. He was able to even transition as a slight lockdown hero. So I'm a Dazzle fan. I liked that game. That one stood out to me. I don't remember who he was playing against, but I'm really expecting to see a lot of their players have some good plays.
I also remember a game that we did cast together over on the Yasha stream where Ush was playing that mid lane Leshrek, and then everything was kind of going a bit awkward for them in that top lane, and all of a sudden Ush just came out of nowhere and just wiped the floor of the whole lane. It was like very apparent that NaRv are not afraid to be there by their side. Now, we're praising a lot of the Complexity on being able to be a team, work together, and be there for each other, but NaRv have shown that as well. And he was right there by their side and got it done. And same for like MSS. Once he gets that level 6, let's say like a Clockwork, he's ready to go right into action and help his team kind of really thrive and push on forward. So for Complexity, Blitz, have you had an opportunity to see a lot of their games? Was there a standout moment for any particular player or the team play style that you saw that really impressed you up to this point?
Yeah, Complexity versus Unknown game number 1. Swindle Melons played Razor at 460, or no, that's not right. It's 445. He moves down to the top lane without ward vision. They don't see him coming. He gets a double kill and secures the lane. He makes the same move about 8 minutes later where he goes down, helps his support secure lanes. Like, his movements for me feel like movements I wouldn't make, but they're really impressive because he's kind of seeing Dota a different way than me. And I kind of look for a really safe style, as Kevin knows. Like, I play incredibly safe, but he's kind of just playing for the win now, and I really enjoyed that about it.
Fair enough. As far as an update to the game goes, they had re-hosted the lobby, it looked like. They got everyone back in their seats, so hopefully it'll get started. So we're going to have a little bit more fun here, gentlemen. We're going to keep trucking on forward. Any particular back pocket strat you're hoping to see right here? Remember at like the Summit 3, we saw like EG pull out that jungling coddle, which is a bit out of the norm and threw off the other team. Maybe a fun little Huskar here. Amiibo. Anything you'd love to see kind of come out here? I know it's a very high-stakes game, but it is a best of 3. You have a little bit of wiggle room. Anything you'd be a fan of?
I think to me the one thing that stands out is always when I look at drafts is, you see all these drafts coming over and over, right? You see Joe threats coming over and over, DK threats coming over and over, and where you go back to finding the counter to these threats. And what often happened in mid lanes when a DK was played is that a Timbersaw was played as well as on the opponent's side. So if a DK is picked very early, and I can see a Timbersaw being a counter to that, getting put in the mid lane, I feel DK is very stuck in the mid lane. So I wouldn't be surprised seeing that, or rather I would like to see that hero as well.
Yeah, I think the hero is a huge crowd pleaser, and he's one of the heroes I decide that like, if I had that special on tap power, I could go to the Dota lamp, wish a genie here, and make me good at one hero, please. I think Timbersaw would be one of them. He's a flashy guy. Purge, any particular hero you'd like to see, or back pocket strat that could come out?
I think the teams might just play super standard, honestly, because they haven't played each other yet. They're in the opposite groups, so I think it's time to match up, basically. You say, okay, this has been working for us. We got first in our groups. Why pick something weird in this game? We got to wait till we're eliminated before we pick our Pudges and our Techies, I think they're just going to pick standard stuff, go up against each other. I would like to maybe see some hero counters to counter the push, but I think what everybody's been picking has been working. It's all about strategy, winning your lanes, and just having a good Dota game. So I don't think we'll see anything too weird.
All right, fair enough. So on one side, you're looking for something as maybe a back pocket strat rather to counter something that may be a bit obvious at the start for one of these teams. And, it's true. They haven't faced each other yet. I don't even think they faced each other outside of this with the current roster like Complexity's had. So this is this is going to be a sure treat. And with that, I don't want to get your opinion on anything because we got to go into the draft. It is live. Gentlemen, all four of us, we get to now dissect and theorycraft. Let it go. Boom. So, this is crucial right now. The opening. Complexity are still going to be banning out the gyrocopter. They do ban out the Wisp. On the other side for NaRv, they're going to be ridding of the Chen and the Quap. So, Blitz, what's left? What are we seeing here as a top priority pickup for Complexity?
Leshrac definitely. I think Dragon Knight as well is perfectly fine for them. I think Dro is going to be a hotly contested hero as well as Dazzle. I'm actually really glad that Complexity, okay, there we go. Complexity is going to be really happy that they got the first pick because I think it's important for them to not have the Gyrocopter, the Wisp, or the Queen of Pain into the game. And if you're the second pick, then it kind of opens up options where you can give it up and you don't want to play against any of those three heroes if you're Complexity.
And they have played Dazzle already 3 times in this qualifier and are undefeated 3-0. On the side of NaRv, yeah, I would agree with you. We could expect to see more of their popular grabs. The Clockwork is just still there. And I was just going to say the Lesh. Damn it, guys, I could have looked good there. But I should have said Lesh first. Is it a big surprise, Honey, to see Lesh kind of come out in the front here for NaRv? I mean, it might be already established now. This possibly is not a supportless track. Every time they've picked it, it's been more core-based and for Ush.
I'm not surprised they pick it, but personally, I actually feel that the Lesh performance of Ush was not 100%. I think it wasn't bad for sure, but I think he's stronger on more agility-based heroes, more carry-ish type of heroes, and I'm not sure if I would say it's the strongest opening, but it's for sure solid. On the side of CoL, I actually really like this first pick Dazzle, and I think it's very good that they deny the Gyrocopter as a pick, because right now they're very open to pretty much anything. They can still go into a Drow strat. They ran this kind of Drow strat before where they had Drow plus Phoenix and whatnot, right? They can still run a DK strat because it's not taken out. And they follow up with an Undying pick, which leaves the draft very open. Yeah,
Undying. So we're expecting that early aggression. Undying, notoriously known for being in that top 2. If I had to pick 2 standouts, like, in the past, dirty 6.83 Troll Sniper. At the start, at least for 6.84, it's all been Gyro Undying. One's going to get through eventually, and one's going to get picked up. For this side, it's going to be Complexity. What do you do, Purge, to counteract an Undying? Is there a strong answer that NaRv could look to stop him in that early aggression?
High physical damage is one solution because you can kill the Tombstone really fast. In a game yesterday, we saw a Drow Ranger pick up to just have tons of range physical DPS, and they already have 2 range heroes on our side, so they maybe could adjust by picking a Drow, killing the Tomb fast, and then tons of physical damage helps you really beat the Undying in the lane normally where you have trouble having just enough damage to pick him off. So that's one possible solution that NaRv could go for. Other than that, just picking really strong lane supports is another good solution, and they already have that with Witch Doctor. Big range, good defensive abilities. You prevent him from diving you and getting kills, because Undying doesn't really farm very fast. He's just good at getting kills and winning team fights. So as long as you play safe and you have a defensive support that helps you not let the Undying bully you, then I think NaRv will be in a good place. So personally, I think Undying is picked a lot, but if you play correctly, he's not the biggest threat in the world, as long as you don't get overrun. So with him being picked this early, I think NaRv's in an okay place to adjust their picks and not be completely vulnerable to it.
For bans, we get rid of that AA. Probably not a big surprise there, Blitz, because they already have a good set of sustain and heal power between the Dazzle and the Undying. They don't want to get that nerf down too much. They also ban out the Shadow Fiend. Gotta get rid of that PL for the side of NaRv. Ziz, it's one of his favorite pickups. And you talked a bit about maybe a possible Drow lineup. Well, that's not going to be the case anymore.
I think for North American rejects to be able to stop the Undying, you need to be able to get in and out of fights really quickly. Because the issue is that even if you have high physical damage, you still don't want to fight under the Tombstone. The time that you're going to use to get close to that Tombstone, you're going to get so out of position. You're going to kind of fall into the Undying's trap. Because usually they'll pick something with mass CC to be able to support the Undying, right? It's like, okay, if you go for the Tombstone, then we'll win the fight anyways because we'll just get 5-man decays off of you and we'll overrun you in that time period. Because the 2 or 3 or 4 right clicks that it takes, usually at that point early on in the game, it takes a little bit too long. That's too heavy of a commitment. So I think if you're North American rejects, NaRv, you kind of just want to be able to pick a hero mid, for example, that can get in and out or is a little bit tankier. I mean, I say that if you take Viper, but I think that's kind of the direction that you want to go for because you want heroes that can outlast the Tombstone, essentially.
Viper, disgusting hero.
I think to me, like, when I face an Undying, or rather when I'm in a position of Undying, the thing that I'm probably the most afraid of is generally Disable, but most likely Silence. I feel like Silence is always very long in comparison to like a Stun Disable, but Silence is what to me, breaks the hero. Because you also don't want to go for items such as EOS. You just want to tank up, right? And you want to be in the fight. And I think it's very crucial to get, your DK and your heals off. Totem is like, if the totem is there, it's good. But like William was mentioning, I think it's physical damage counters that aspect. But I think silence is a crucial factor to breaking Undying.
They want silence. Disruptor had been something they've gone for. I'm not particularly sure if Fogg's always the one to play Witch Doctor. They have also gone for something like a support like a Witch Doctor to be in the lane and zone, and then maybe go something more greedy. They've done Enigma, they've done Sand King in the past. Could be viable options, but now we look to the side of Complexity for their third pick here. What do you think they're thinking, gentlemen, here? Already established, possibly their support duo, but they really haven't given a lot as far as team strategy. Oh, speaking of Sand King, it's actually Complexity. You're going to pick it up. One of these is not a support here. Are we thinking off-lane Sand King? Are we thinking aggro lane with the Undying?
I think Sand King is going to be the support, and Undying is going to be the off-laner. Because if you have a hero like Viper and he's going to be a core player, then he's not going to be able to invade the jungle. He's going to be very static, and he's not a mobile hero at all. It's like a flying fish monster thing. He's not going to get across the lanes. He's not going to invade your jungle. So I think picking Sand King is pretty safe. And you have Undying that can rotate in as well. So you don't want to go for under the tower dives. Mm-hmm. So I think that if NaRv go for the aggro tri-lane, they could get punished for it pretty easily.
I don't really see them doing an aggro tri versus an Undying, though. And they can invade the jungle with Leshrac. I mean, Viper can't do it, but Lesh definitely can. We have seen NaRv do that a couple times where they're like, oh, you have a 5-stack? I'm just going to shift and take that. Thank you. Thanks for stacking. So it looks a little scary for Complexity here at the moment from my perspective. Dealing with the Viper is going to be really hard too with the damage they have. Sand King is their biggest burst at the moment, and that really doesn't do that much to Viper. So at the moment, I feel like he's pretty survivable, and they can maybe just ban out the physical damage carries from here on out. I mean, maybe if Korok's playing Viper, it's not nearly as flashy as what he normally deals with. Mm-hmm. So maybe they'll have some lackings there. But in terms of synergy for their team, I think they're pretty safe. And here's another counter to mediocre burst damage. It's Shadow Demon. If somebody does get gone on like Viper, you can save him, at least temporarily, and he can pop out and hopefully turn a fight around. So I think the Shadow Demon pick here keeps them pretty, very, very safe, basically. It's going to mean that Complexity's damage output will have to be very wisely done.
And you get that nice natural synergy, of course, of him being able to accept disruption and the easy split earth followed from their Leshrex, which is nice. So, Hani, personal thoughts? Shadow Demon, we see it off and on a bit. Teams like EG favorite so much, they'll pick it in the first wave. But in its effect in the NaRv lineup right now?
I'm personally a big fan of Shadow Demon as a support. I feel it's just one of those saves such as Dazzle that has like a similar function, right? I think it's pretty good against the Sand King if the Shadow Demon plays well. I think it comes down a lot to how good the Shadow Demon player is.
I agree with that.
And it has a good combination as well here with the Leshrac, because these two heroes can already kill.
Oh, yeah.
If the Leshrac is on the short lane, which is pretty much the case, Viper is going to be the mid laner, then you have two heroes, and you don't have to add the Witch Doctor in that case, that could potentially just focus on pulling, right? Mm-hmm. And these two heroes are going to be always a kill threat. You have to be very afraid on the side of Complexity here. It's going to be most likely an Undying on the offline, I believe so. But I think Moon on the side of Complexity is the more flashy player to me.
Oh, yeah.
So seeing a potential Sand King offlane, I wouldn't be too surprised if that happens, but it would be more standard having that Undying there.
Well, we talked about it a bit before we got in the draft. Possible back pocket stuff, something that could be a bit percolating here. Blitz. Warlock. Where the hell did he come from? Why do you think Complexity need to reach to something like a Warlock in this case? Is this something they've been plotting out as a counter to maybe the opener from North America Rejects, or they just feel like that this is the time?
These are heroes, the Complexity of picks, that kind of overlook the laning phase. I mean, me and Kevin know that the best because we played against the people that started
Phoenix.
The whole Warlock trend. Yeah, we played against Phoenix, and I think in a game we started against him, it was like 6-0, and he was like level 3, and then all of a sudden he comes back, one rock, turns the fight around, completely stomps. Once you get a refresher and an Aghanim's, it feels impossible to fight into it. Like, I think we were up the entire game, and then they just kept kind of suicide rushing at us, and it didn't seem to matter whatsoever. And so I think that Complexity, they have lanes that, even if a Warlock gets ganked, you don't really care too much. Like, yeah, you want his laning phase to go okay so that he can pick up something like a Midas or a fast Ags. But for heroes like Undying, it's pretty stable. Like, if you lose your lane as an Undying, it doesn't matter too much because your team fight contribution is higher than that. Mm-hmm. And I think the same exists at Warlock.
No, I feel like Warlock, though, can be punished. If they recognize where his strengths are, they could try to address it early on. I'm not sure if North American regions have that aggressive a lineup to really hit that mid lane where it counts to punish him. I'm anticipating, of course, this Warlock is going to be in the mid lane at that case because he has that quota to meet, whether it's rush for a minus to be extra greedy, but getting that Agnum Scepter and then a refresher, that's where he really hits his peak. So do you feel like Warlock could be a hero where maybe he needs to be punished early on if you want to, nip it in the butt?
I think generally Warlock, like you were mentioning, I only think he can be fitted in the mid lane here. I don't really think he can be on his side lane unless you would run into contesting trial lane. I'm not entirely sure. It could be happening, but unlikely. So I would also assume it's a Warlock middle. The one thing that stands out to me in a one-on-one scenario where you have a Warlock against the Viper in middle is the uphill ward for Viper. It means a ton. Just because you're an Orb hero, you can harass, right? Where the Warlock can't really respond. So if he doesn't have that uphill vision and he wants to harass you, he's going to lose vision on you, right? And in that sense, when he gets the aggro from creeps then, you're totally fine. Warlock can deal with a Viper, but it's very tough if the ward still stays up in the mid-hill.
So to round out the lineups there, we saw a Beastmaster that's picked up from NaRv for MSS in the offlane. Can't forget about that great offlaner and all of its buff he's got. But then the Weaver Blitz, it made you go, ugh, why?
Because I was going to call that as a pick.
Oh, of course.
No, I'm serious. I couldn't say anything. I didn't see the Warlock coming, but I saw the Weaver coming because I was thinking in my head, I was kind of doing a checklist. I was like, okay, what does NaR have? I was like, okay, they have decent team fights. Their lanes are okay, but they really lack hard disable or single target focus, right? What do they have? They have a Shadow Demon and a Leshrac. That's their only combination against a Weaver. The Weaver really thrives on that. If you have like single target silences or stuns or people that are going to build orchids or hexes early on, the hero's complete garbage. But if you're against heroes like Leshrac and Viper and things of that nature, I think that the hero really shines.
All right, so before we get to hop into the game, gentlemen, I'm going to fly through it real quick. Now, based on draft, how are you feeling right now? Do you think the edge is going to be going to complexity or NaR here, Blitz?
I think NaR has the more stable draft, and I think their path to victory is a lot easier. Their laning phase is going to be more stable. If they abuse the mid Warlock, that's like the best time to do it because he catches up so slowly. He has no flash farm mechanic. So I think that the onus is on complexity to play better for their draft to work.
Hani, agree?
Disagree? I totally agree. I think just for the drafting part, I think what makes NaR very strong is that they usually always have a solid draft. The draft is always strong or in their favor. And I think just because of that, right, like William was mentioning, CoL needs to just play better. They have to execute the draft, and I think that's just going to be a hard thing here.
Purge, finally to you. Would you agree based on the draft we see before us?
Yeah, I think so. The other really important thing is they have a Beastmaster, and because Complexity is such a teamfight lineup, NaR should be able to take and choose their teamfights if they have good Hawk vision. If they can initiate and blow up Warlock before he gets his ult off, or they can chain stun a Weaver, it's looking really good for them. So I think due to their good playstyle and their high skill cap, they should be able to take it.
So with that, we are going to be jumping into the game. Purge and Hani, we're going to let you go, and we'll see you back at the start of the next game. We'll get your impressions on how the first game went, and then we can go through the draft once more. But, of course, we're welcomed with a pause as we hop into the game here. Blitz, is this our first time casting together?
Yeah, it's my first time casting with a lot of people at this event.
Oh, my. Who's your favorite so far? And why is it going to be me?
Okay, it's going to be you if you only let me talk about the mid matchup and we don't focus on anything else.
Okay, so off-lane matchup here, Blitz. No, I'm just messing with you. Okay, here we go. The pause has been lifted, and away we go. NaR on the Radiant side. It looks like they're going to start heading towards the north, maybe anticipating they want to get some wards in that jungle, prevent the Sand King from getting some early stacks could be the case. We also put out the idea that maybe they'll leave the stacks out there and do something about it later, maybe take it for themselves. On the complexity side, more standard. They're already split off to each their own lane, maybe having a bit more pressure towards that top rune right here. You know, this first boy, here we go. We're going to have the running man here, a little bit of a lag spike, only on the one on okay, here. Now we're going to have a
they actually paused the game. Yeah, they were saying that the server was really unstable, and so they're confirming that right now. And I mean, for me personally, I see as an analyst, I feel really bad when I call something, and I don't want to interrupt you guys, but I was going to say, I think it's going to be Weaver Sven. I think it's going to be
You know
Weaver
how I
Sven.
feel now.
So I just like stayed quiet, but then when Weaver was picked, I was like, ugh.
Sometimes I do it I'm like, it's going to be an AA. I got to just throw it in there real quick, and they're like, what? And I'm like, nothing. And then the A pop up. I'm like, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
At an MLG, it was like, it was EG versus Empire, and I knew they were going to take the Omni Knight. Like, that's such an unlikely hero, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you seen it picked in the last, like, 6 months?
Not much, unless you're Wheel, but they're like the only team. Outside of that, you never see it.
So I was like, it's going to be an Omni. And I wanted to say it before the pick happened, so I'd look like a genius. I was like, it's an Omni, Toby. Like, I just, like, blurted it out. Yeah, I was like, it's going to be an Omni, and then it was.
Was he, like, offended? Like, Blitz, please. I'm trying to talk here.
I don't think he was. I think he was more happy that I made the prediction, but all right. All of that aside, I think I have to go rejoin the game.
Oh, man. So we're going to be starting out, of course, with a bit of a server hiccup here. And
it's not Dota 2 if there's not sort of remake or
like, let's get the hype built up, and let's go ahead and take a moment to kind of rethink the situation here and get to some new servers. So from a player perspective, though, does this make things even more antsy, a bit more nerves? If you're just like, I'm ready to play here. Why is everything being a little bit flubby?
Yeah, for me personally, I don't think there are going to be nerves for them going into the game, but I think that once you're inside the game, you just want to play. Like, you want to get off the ground running and be like, and little things like that do disrupt your flow. I know the average viewer is like, what's the big deal? It's like a minute pause or we have to remake, but it bothers you so much more when you have delays and stuff like that. Like, the average spectator complains a lot about pauses and delays and stuff like that, but you as a player feel even worse. You're antsy. You just want to get started. You see the other team's lineup. You don't want to overthink it, because now what's happening is like, oh crap, they have this, this, and this. How are we supposed to play against that, instead of just trusting your natural instinct?
I guess the nice thing is with this pause, they get to like think a little bit more and maybe over theory craft as far as what they're going to do with that first minute of the game starting, because that's a big first minute. You're claiming the runes. First blood could happen right there. You want to make sure you're in the right place at the right time. So while we wait, everyone, of course, filing back into the lobby, getting back in their seats so we can get back into the game. They're probably going to go with an all pick. Stats people are going to hate that because then it's recorded differently, but, whatever. It is what it is. So with that, what about the other side of the bracket? Now, we're going to be seeing, not today, but tomorrow. That was actually funny because I didn't mean to do that.
Give you one.
Thank you. Over on the other side, it's Void Boys taking on Mouse Sports. Now, the easy inkling is that Mouse Sports are going to be expected to maybe blow past Void Boys. Are you part of that wagon as well? Do you think Void Boys might be able to put up a bit of a fight? And man, look at our producer. Right on it. Show up in those brackets right there.
I really think that Void Boys can put up an upset. If they're the team to do it, I think that it's more likely that Void Boys actually beats Mouse Sports than I think it is that Complexity beats North American Rejects. I think Void Boys is individually really talented. They're playing for broke. They have nothing to lose. And I think Mouse Sports has a lot of pressure on them, right? If you have to think about it like that, okay, they move a bunch of players to Canada or wherever it is. They invest a lot of time. They get sponsored. A lot of the pressure is on them. And I think that Mouse Sports will win, but I think that Void Boys, if you get to play loose, you get to play carefree, kind of like, okay, at least we got top 4. It's not that big of a deal if we lose here. We weren't expecting too much. Then I think that team has the mental advantage.
I wouldn't mind actually seeing Void Boys advance on further and make it to Seattle, because I feel like this is the team of mystery a lot. There's only like the mythical tale of the once Pat Soul who was on the team and that everyone was praising so much, but never really heard anything from him. And it might have been even a fake Twitter account or a fake post. We don't even know if it's really him. It could be someone just doing all the work for him. I was ready to meet Pat Soul if he could make it all the way to Seattle. Now, not going to be the case, of course. The story out there is that he had finished up his schooling, so his visa had ended here in America or the States, and is going to be traveling back to China, where he hopes to continue his Dota career or play out there. Now we have 747, but I still don't know much about this team. We only know what we get to see before us in their play, so I personally wouldn't mind seeing some fresh faces at TI. I don't know if you feel the same. Not that I don't mind seeing Black. He's such a jolly guy, of course, and Qualifiers and Bulba and these guys who are almost at every single TI ever, but it'd be neat to kind of see some fresh faces.
I really want... I don't know if I'm supposed to say this as a commentator, but I really want Mouse to win because I'm really close friends with Bulba.
All right.
And I know he'd be crushed if he lost. So I'm going to be rooting for them. But I think as a commentator, at the same time, it is a really cool storyline to see them get knocked out. I'm not rooting for that to happen. I don't want people to think that I want Mouse to lose. But I think from a storyline perspective, it would be kind of neat to see a team like that, like Void Boys, advance through. And I think that Susie 747, I always call him Susie because it sounds cooler.
Yeah.
I hate that, the 3-letter thing, like MMYXY, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think Susie's one of the most talented players in NA. I mean, that guy schooled the crap out of me in a 1v1 a little bit ago, and I don't want to expand on that because it's embarrassing. Because it sucks losing to somebody in a one-on-one, but he's really talented.
That's good. Well, it's good to hear, and we know that you can take your word for it because you're a stellar mid player yourself, Mr. 7K on Storm.
Everyone's becoming 7K recently.
Yeah, I'm 7K. I just don't put it out there. I mean, no big deal.
That's the whole Reddit thing is like, if I played those heroes, I'd also be 7K.
Regardless, we're going to either be treated to seeing a lot of these familiar faces at TI, or we're going to get at least one team, whether it be Complexity with like Moon and Swindle and all them, fresh faces at TI, being a part of Dota. You know, some of these players have been to some of the biggest tournaments for Han. Now it's their time to show what they got in the Dota 2 world in the biggest tournament across the globe. Or Void Boys, like we said before, or we'll see Black again. Nonetheless, it should be good. Now we're going into the draft. Everyone's re-picking the same heroes again. Did they actually get it into Captain's mode once more, or is it AP? Well, regardless, they're doing different bans, so the stats people are not going to like that. Sorry, guys.
No, they're even doing the same bans.
That Pudge was not banned last time.
That Pudge wasn't, but everything else was. Think about it. This was a Queen of Pain.
PL Trout. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Everything else is the right.
All right, so only NaRv just kind of flubbing it up there at the beginning, but all right, fair enough. Stats mean a lot. I've talked to some of these guys. They love their numbers. They do phenomenal work. I actually don't even know who is our stats man for this one.
It's Nahaz.
Oh, we're in for a treat.
Yeah, he's really good.
Nahaz is the man.
Yeah.
You were with him, right? In
MLG.
MLG.
You know what I like about him?
What?
Is that I'll talk to him about Dota, and he seems just so interested.
Genuine.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He can't get enough of him. Like, he'll ask, like, okay, why do you think this matchup is the way it is in terms of, like, hero matchups?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just kind of give him 1 or 2 word answers, you know, like, oh, it's because of this and this. And he's like, and he just, like, kind of looks at you inquisitively, and you're like, oh, well, okay, then I guess I'll explain it in depth, because nobody really cares too much about like the nitty-gritty details, but he really wants to know like every little thing about it.
You can tell he wants to soak it all in. He wants to know. He wants to learn. I'm kind of the same way. I want to make sure I take everything in. I can retain it a bit. That's why I write down my notes. Yeah, it could be easy enough to just go in there and copy paste everything.
You're too handsome for this kind of stuff.
I know. I'm just the face after all, and I say a few Dota things. Hopefully, a funny wit and witty bit, and people will chuckle a bit. But I have you by my side to tell me all the smart things about Dota.
Man, that was a really warm touch. You know, sometimes you'll get.
It's because I'm sweating so much right now.
I thought it was like a nice one.
So let me just rub that right there. No. All right, here we go. Let's give it another shot. Let's hop back into the game. The new draft has been complete, or the secondary draft, but away we go. Take 2. Whoa! Here we are once again. Last time we saw NaRv heading towards the north. We anticipate maybe they'll look to go in the jungle and block out some of those camps. You already see him building up all those wards. And for the side of Complexity, maybe a bit more attention to the top rune. How important is it exactly that you get off on the right foot here? And do you think it's also important for NaRv to be able to get in that jungle maybe, throw off Complexity's game a bit, block out some of those camps? Could be very big value for the Sand King to really have a strong start and something to fall back on to get to that Blink Dagger faster.
Yeah, you just pointed out exactly. It's that you're just trying to slow down the Sand King. You want to make sure that he can't stack the cap closest to him, that big one that they're actually assaulting right now, because it makes it easy for him to rotate. He just stacks, and then he can pressure the lane, right? Because he's got nothing to do in between. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, 12-2 record for the Dazzle, recently being very highly praised. And the other nice thing about that is he's not one you obviously want to be throwing out your first ban to. Maybe unless you're playing Secret. Puppy has definitely been on the Dazzle train for quite a while now, but he'll usually end up slipping through, and one team will end up grabbing it. And in this case, Complexity first picking that Dazzle. So we'll see if they can kind of keep that stellar record going. And their matchup here in this first game of a best-of-3. Reminder, everyone, the winner of this series guaranteed their trip to Seattle to be at TI, whether it be in that invited slot or competing in the wild card here. So as we move on in, and by the way, I don't have any game sounds. I'm just going to put that note out there. Do you?
Nope.
Okay, so we can't hear much right now. Hopefully that's something that will be adjusted. Just wanted to casually throw that out there. But here we go. Moon Meander going to be representing the Undying in the off lane as it stands. Along the mid lane, a lot of congestion here. Swindle Melons, no surprise, he'll be repping that Warlock in the mid lane. So as, the mid player here, Blitz, the Warlock matchup taking on Korok and his Leshreek. What kind of impressions are we seeing here? Hani said that it's very crucial to maybe get that ward up there, but that was when we thought it was going to be the Viper, but it's the Lesh.
It's so much easier for a Leshreek to farm if you think about it. He's got 2 mechanisms that can both harass and farm at the same time. Typically, you only have one hero that has one offensive ability, right? Mm-hmm. If you think, for example, Storm, you've got the Remnant, and that's about it that you're going to really use to CS, right? Like, the Overload using it isn't very efficient, and you can't really harass with that tool unless you're playing against a melee or something like that. So when you're playing against a Leshreek, you have to A, watch out for the stun, B, watch out for the lightning, and he can kind of flirt between using both of them, whereas Warlock is so much more straightforward. He has no, real farming mechanism. He's not really going to throw down a nuke to really get up in your face or something like that, but his base damage is fantastic. The right click animation is really good, and Shadow Word is so annoying to play against.
Early movement coming in from Fly. Oh, not going to be able to get the opportunity for that lead in Burrow, but already you can see the aggression. MSS utilizing those piggies. Got the double of them out, could help with the CS or harassment like we see there. Korok did already have to tap into that early salve, leaving him with just a shared tango or two, but you could say the same for now. Swindle down to just that one shared tango, and he's already pretty low. So it seems like Lesh is doing a pretty nice job being a bully, leading things up from here. But of all these 3 lanes, which do you think is going to be the most important for which team to really be able to thrive? Now, I have to hold that thought. They're going to lead in with an early disruption, but this just might be a bit of harassment, and it is. They're just going to zone back Moon Meander as much as possible.
I think the mid matchup matters the most, and I'm not just saying that because I'm biased. I think if the Warlock has a really good start, it's hard for him to get slowed down. But if you're able to solo kill him, out-farm him like crazy, stop his farm, then I think the hero really starts to lose its usefulness, right? Because, yeah, you rely on the rock, but you also need things like the Ags to be able to do anything.
There's a disruption. They already got the 1 poison stack. They have a second one right there, and I think this is going to be our first blood. A desperate tombstone, not going to be enough. It's Ush who will strike first. Oh, and of all the people to get that first blood bonus, it's going to be the Viper. This is a very strong start for them. Moon Meander is going to have to come back into a bit of a struggle right here. Is he going to need a little bit of help, or is this just going to be NaRv's lane here from here on out?
I think he just has to play a little bit more safe, because I think Moon as a player kind of really wants to contest, get in the face, and try to win his lane. But I think in this lane, he just kind of has to sit back, be patient, and trust his tri-lane to win.
Fly's got the DD, but can't quite get close enough again for the burrow. Putting a lot of attention, of course, to maybe building up some stacks early on. Now, they didn't roam into the woods. They didn't block out any of those side camps over there. They do have a little stackaruno right there, but, you know, not anything for him to really thrive. So it seems like Fly's being a bit more attention to the actual lane and maybe trying to draw some blood here. So, but this is also very uncharacteristic from NaRv, at least from the games I've personally gotten to cast and witness, is that MSS is not on his own. They want to make sure that he has a good, strong start, enough that they're going to be putting the Witch Doctor here. Is it that the case, or did they feel confident enough in this bottom lane that, you know, the Shadow Demon and Viper will be able to get enough done on their own?
I think that they feel confident enough that a Shadow Demon and a Viper is enough to harass out the Undying. And the Witch Doctor is one of the better aggro supports, if you think about it, right? Because if you run at him, he throws out the cask, he has the heal as well to kind of save his guy. He's never really out of position. He's got good animation to harass with as well. For example, if the Witch Doctor just decides to completely leave the lane, or I mean the Dazzle, then the Witch Doctor can just kind of get in the face of the Weaver, start to deny and harass and stuff like that. So it works really well as an aggro dual laner, I guess. And it's actually the most interesting for me, this mid matchup and how Korok plays it. If you notice, every single time he does the same thing. He forces up the wave. Before the wave dies, he moves forward as the wave is dying. And so Swindle doesn't really see it coming in time. And he plays on top of his hill at all times. And so he's just trying to zone out Swindle as much as he can. Like, look how he moves forward with the creep wave every single time. Like, I've been watching. He does this every single time. And it's kind of unique to him.
And look at him go. Continues that bit of harassment. Lands the stun. Another Lightning Storm is going to force out the heal from Swindle, taking down a good chunk of his mana. And you didn't see it there. As long as NaRv are able to get that first blood, they have a very impressive, I believe it was 9-1, 9-2 record. So based on stats, could be very good for him. We'll have to see. But let's look at the long term here, Blitz. And we go into late game, I can't help but feel like Complexity would have the edge with the Weaver. You look at NaRv, it's a Viper and a Lesh, but then again, it's the new Lesh. Octarine Core, get him a Bloodstone, and he could be a big late game pony here. Oh, look at this.
I think that NaRv have the better late game lineup because Lesh and Viper, it's a dual core against essentially a single core.
Fair
but,
enough, yeah.
Oh, and in middle lane.
The rock is down, and they have Fly nearby with the burrow.
They
It
need to
looks
get
like
this kill right now. This
might
is so
be in
big.
trouble, and they will get that kill.
Yeah.
So, good setup with that first ultimate from Swindle.
And you know how that was? It was because Korok, every single time when he pushes out the lane, he kills his way faster. He runs past the tower to chase the Warlock out of farm. And it's a good thing because if you look at the Warlock CS, it's 14. And if you're wondering why it's so low, it's because he forces out the wave, he pushes with his wave, and he's always on top of the hill, making him really susceptible to ganks. So what I was going to say is the Sand King should just rotate at level 4. When the Warlock hits level 6, just go for the gank because it's always going to work against a player like that.
Good read of that pattern to really punish the Korok and doing a bit of the same thing over and over again. And with that rotation from Fly, they're able to get their own return kill and get themselves on the board. So very nice for them as we look over the levels. No surprise. Lesh and Viper both at the top of level 6. Swindle is able to get his own level 6. It's 5 minutes, about 6 minutes in, and even though Moon Meander was brought down once, he's still been able to string together enough XP to about to be his own level 6 as it is. So enough talk about level 6, as level 6 has come out for everyone right now. Are we going to see a bit more team fight action come out from one side or the other? I mean, though the Rock is already down now for CoL, but as NaRv start getting things online, do you think they're going to get more action-packed and the rotations are going to come out, or are they going to be more driven to just take advantage of their lanes and continue to farm.
I think NaRv will go for more mid-game gank timings with this.
Oh my, Courier taking down the Dire. Courier goes
that's
down.
Really surprising.
Oh, very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think if I'm Complexity, you're a little bit too timing based, right? Like you can't move before Fly gets his Blink Dagger. You can't move before Swindle has his Rock up. So I think that they're a little bit more static with how they're going to do things, whereas NaRv can kind of get aggressive on the map whenever they want. Like they have a Shadow Demon plus a Leshrac. That's one of the more stable combos to be able to play with. And once Beastmaster gets his ultimate up, it's a really low cooldown.
There's the stun, there's the lightning. Korok, even though he was brought down previously, is confident to know that the rock's not quite there and he can continue to do what he's been doing up to this point and
Look at him, he
get
just
the hell
pushes
back.
out. He just forces in. He's even died once, and he's still forcing past the creep wave because he's just trying to secure that
he's a
the
man.
Warlock doesn't get CS. That too.
he's just so swollen. He's a man. He's like, I don't care about that. It's not going to affect me in my game, so I'll go ahead and keep being assertive like I like to do. So all that meanwhile, though, that means that Fly continues to farm up in the nearby jungle. Not the highest net worth right now, but once he's able to get that Blink Dagger underway, that's when the action could really start
I think
here.
they're trying to make a move again because they know that Korok plays back, or he plays up, and it's a level 3 stun, so they should be able to set this up.
Uh-oh, but bottom lane, early Viper Strike going to be going out on the moon. He's going to try to go for the immediate TP, but that is going to be very unsuccessful. He ends up going down the second time this game, and this works out even the better. Again, it's Ush who picks up the kill, and he's king of the net worth right now because of it.
Yeah, and I feel like Fly should have just tried to go for the wraparound on Korok if he was going to go for this, and Swindle's contesting this rune right now, but there's 2 heroes there this time.
Uh-oh, face first Coconut, early Maledict, but probably just a level 1 at that. And no rune for you. Korok is going to quickly deny that, and Complexity going to have to walk away with nothing right there. So early pressure from both sides seem to be kind of in tune with each other as far as what they want to get out of this game, but as far as the lane matchups in the early game, I would have to say, you know, obviously bottom going very well for NaRv. Mid, you might be able to make the case either way with the early kill onto Korok. But what do you think? As far as lane advantage, is it a strong start more for NaRv just because of the multiple kills coming out in the bottom? I mean, they are also not losing much in their off lane. MSS is building up quite a bit of farm. He should have Primal Roar any moment now. He's about level 5.5 here.
I think this laning phase is okay for both teams. Like, they're going to be satisfied with how mid went, but Complexity is going to be really happy that their Warlock wasn't pressured whatsoever by the Shadow Demon, and they're going to be really happy that they got the first blood off. And the Sand King is just kind of happily farming, right? Like, he went for 1 gank attempt, it worked. He goes for the second one. Yeah, that's a bit of a time investment, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because nobody's going to pressure him in the jungle. So he's going to have time to farm anyways.
Uh-oh, we've seen this before. Rock, Burrow, this time the upheaval. He's going to desperately dish out the ultimate. He's going to try to run away, but there's nowhere to go. He's walking through molasses. He can't make it away. Now they will get the return kill with the help of Chad there on the Witch Doctor to take down Fly on his Sand King. As the disruption comes out defensively to help out Chad, but can he run away from this big rock monster? He can. Barely alive right there at the end. They end up trading 1 for 1, but have to say it's a bit for the better of Complexity as they take down Korok once more.
Oh, definitely. And I think the Warlock Golem, I'm not entirely sure. I think it hit the creeps once instead of prepping the hit for the Witch Doctor, so I felt like they should have gotten the double kill there, but it's one of those minor things that don't really matter too much. It does really benefit Complexity, though, because Korok, like we said, he's a snowball type player. Like, he needs a really good start, whereas Swindle isn't. Like, Swindle's okay with kind of trading farm, but the fact that they've gotten 2 kills off on him so far, he's gotten the XP for both of them, and he's been participating right now, I think is really beneficial for Complexity.
We see Korok goes for the Arcane Boots build up on his Lesh. We've seen it both ways this qualifier run so far with Lesh. Either going with Power Treads, I guess when they feel they need that extra bit of life, or they go with the Arcanes because you can always, you know, disassemble them and put them into the Bloodstone here and there. I don't know if you have any sort of inkling about that notion right there. Just as far as it seems like the easier path for item progression for your Leshrac. Maybe doesn't necessarily need the extra bit of life.
I think you should go for the Arcane Boots first because the way that Leshrac plays, he's going to farm really quickly, and the Power Treads don't do too much for you because eventually you want to get something like Travels because you can push out waves so quickly, right? And that you want to be the person pushing out the wave, then TPing to your teammates to be able to help the push. So I think going for the Arcane Boots and then having regular boots and then getting a point booster because you're going to farm so quickly. It's just the nature of the hero.
And once he gets enough levels together, it gets out of control. But hey, Warlock got that Midas, so there's going to be that Midas. I would foresee a rush towards that Agnums, then a refresher, and then things just get absolutely chaotic. And if it does get to that point, what could be the answer from NaRv with the lineup they currently got to stop the double rock dropdown? Or are they more based to prevent him from getting to that point?
You have to prevent him from getting to that point. If you let a Warlock, especially as a core, build up a refresher, on top of the Aghanim Scepter, it's so hard to fight into. And NaRv don't really have the best ways of dealing with it either. They've got 3 heroes that I'd say are relatively squishy.
Oh, they're going to try to defend this tower. Still not taken down. Instead, they can actually get to die. It looks like they will. Moonmeander's going to finish it off. Now, Chad looking to run away from here. They get the help. That mech was already picked up from Ush. They dish out the Viper Strike onto Ziz, but he's going to be able to Sakuchi himself away from trouble. Get rid of these frickin' zombies off my butt, and Chad will be able to make it away. So, when it's all said and done, you know, they have 3 attention down here in the NaRv bottom lane. They're not able to get the tower. It was denied. Ziz, could Sakuchi himself into a bit of trouble if they decide to turn and go on to him here. Actually, Moonmeander there with full life now. And just a bit of a footsie play blitz. Flirting, but no one kind of going for third base.
You can't let them disrespect your offlaner like that. You have to come in at some point and stop that madness, because if the Undying just keeps getting dove, they're going to get a little bit more reckless and start playing really aggressively, and you can't really do much. They don't really want to help Moon either, because if you notice, who was the one that rotated? It was the Weaver, right? Because the Sand King wants to continue to farm the jungle. Like, his only focus in life right now is to get that Blink Dagger. A Dazzle is not going to provide you any offensive firepower, so it's going to be the Weaver, and the Warlock can't TP as well. Just because it's a Warlock.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Blink Dagger. 12-minute, 30-second Blink Dagger for Fly. Respectable time is what I would like to say about that. Do you think it's crucial now for him to take that Blink Dagger and put it to some use? I imagine so. He just got the smoke, the old Bat Rider kind of Blink Dagger play. So, big deal if they can kind of lead in with a kill with this one. Plus, he has the Epi. And of all the lanes out there, we'll have to see what he favors as the prime target. I mean, Viper is the most farmed for NaRv, but he's also one of the hardest targets to take down. So where do you think his best bet is to try to make a big impact with that Blink?
Unless the Warlock +1 are going to show up to the bottom lane, I think it's unlikely. I think the better play is to go for Korok mid. They never see the 3 times gank coming. Like, it's like the first one goes off and you're like, okay, I'll respect that. The second one goes off and you're like,
fair enough.
All right, these guys are just being assholes now. And then the third time goes off and you're just like, there's no way. They've already shut me down. They've wasted so much time here. It's the third time that really catches you off guard.
I mean, they don't want to even have that third time to happen. Chad has been flirting around this mid lane for quite a while, just in case something is to happen onto Korok here. But now they have Moonmeander here involved as well. Korok not playing that aggressive. We've seen in the last couple of moments, but obviously the given that there's people missing from the map. Moon's missing from the bottom lane. Fly has been off the radar for who knows how long, so it's fair enough for them to play a bit more reserved. But because of that, look at MSS. He's kind of doing his own thing in the top lane. He's already over level 8. Have yet to see him utilize his Primal Roar as well. So it's been a relatively quiet game, I have to say, mostly for the side of NaRv.
I think NaRv just trying to play defensively and build up a little bit more of a lead. Like, MSS is farming so well. That's a Necrobook 1 on an offlaner at 14 minutes. Like, you're incredibly satisfied with what's happening right now. Because if you take a look at Moonmeander's farm, he's got almost nothing. He's got the Arcane Boots, and that's about it. So if you're just looking at the comparison of offlaners, the Beastmaster's doing really well. So you're okay with this type of pace.
Here they are now, thinking that they can probably get some work done in the top lane, knocking at that tier 1 here. MSS, of course, still in the neighborhood. His Hawk out there doing work. Korok now back into his more confident stance as he has that magical haste rune to kind of duck in and out when necessary here. But he's got an objective in mind, and that's looking to finish off that tier 1 mid. But Ush still kind of doing his own thing down here in the bottom lane. Is there going to have to be a point where Complexity have something to do about it? I mean, or is Ush just going to get away with taking this tier 2 bottom and then he'll look to take his momentum elsewhere?
The problem for CoL is that their lineup is so immobile, and they have no ganking heroes. The Sand King, like Kevin said, it's okay for burst damage, but you've got a Dazzle as a support and an Undying, which isn't really known for the burst damage. So to be able to kill that Viper, you'd have to heavily commit. You'd have to throw down the Rock, the Sand King ultimate, but he's got a mech. Like, the likelihood of killing him is still kind of low, and the investment for it would be so huge. And this is why I think the Viper pick pays off so well for them.
Yeah, they haven't really picked it much through the qualifier, if at all, at least from the games I've seen personally. But it seems like this is the right time to grab it, and so far it's been pretty damn fruitful. They got some good strikes there on the tier 2 bottom lane. Moonmeander did show up, who was successful denying the tier 1 in that lane, so he's kind of there on its back end. But it will still stand for now, and it looks like Ush will pull back, and well, they get the ward on the high ground right now. Hawk already currently scouting out Swindle Melons. He's got that point booster and already 1k gold. You're talking about maybe eventually stopping this Warlock from getting to that point, but he seems to continue to build it together. But my oh my, suddenly Korok, he has a soul booster. So.
It's just the nature of Leshrac. He's going to farm faster than every other hero because he's got so many different lose-lose situation overall. it's like insane, but I think Complexity should just kind of ignore the laning phase right now. Try to build up items onto the Warlock. Get your Sand King one more item maybe. Make sure that the Weaver's in fighting condition, and then just go all out. Like, it's like one timed movement of aggression. Like, you don't really get many opportunities because the Warlock cooldown is so long, but it's like you really have to make things happen with that one big rock.
That's almost the impression we had when we talked about this matchup. NaRv just notoriously known for really succeeding in their laning stage, but where Complexity have that good team fight where they can come together and really succeed. So we're looking for a bit more of that here in the game. But look at that. MSS departs from his off-lane position, now looking at the attention towards the mid lane. Another denied tower, though. Complexity going to be taking that one away. I also want to mention Korok with his Leshrac went a very interesting build here. Might have to hold that thought. Moon Meander charging on forward, but it could be him that's in a bit of trouble. No, he'll be fine. The Tombstone's going to end up going down. Now he's got help. The Rock faked out once. The Vision, they can't quite see Fog. Fog going to go for the TP. Are they going to waste the Rock to stop him? No, they won't. It's just a freaking little Shadow Demon, so they let him go back to the fountain and will make it away. But, hey, they rotate a bunch of coal to the bottom lane. They don't get much, if anything, out of it at all. Korok continues to farm. Same with MSS and company. But as I say that, will the jump come out? Epicenter charging on up. They move in. Burrow does end up catching just the tip of it right there at the end. Big damage, but Korok again with another haste rune. Look at the sidestep right here. He's trying to juke and jive to make it away from this one. The Bug scouting him out right here, but that little pony boy is way too fast. And, sorry, Fly. You got a good gap closing, but not that fast a gap closing. So Korok is going to make it away with his life. Ooh, how heartbreaking is that for Complexity?
It's pretty big because it kind of shows NaRv a lot of Complexity's hands. Like, Complexity's not going to use that ultimate on one of your supports. And that's like the saddest part is you see 300 HP Shadow Demon start to TP away and you can't do anything about it. It kind of reveals that, okay, if you didn't know it before, Complexity's not going to try to fight you in the split push engagements. So I think what NaRv are going to go for are stuff like that.
Moon Meander. They're going to dish out the Purge from Fog, but now Fog's going to get caught with the Burrow Strike right now. Weave is going to be flying out, same with the Tombstone. It looks like NaRv want to pull back into a different position, at least away from that Tombstone, but can they get out? The Rock going to be drop connects onto Upheaval there as well. A big Death Ward, however, on the return from Chad is going to stop them from moving on forward. They're going to eat a lot of this damage right here. Fly goes in, but he ends up going down. They're going to lose the one. Shadow Demon also going down in the mix, and now as they charge to the back, MSS is like, I got to get the hell out of here. He's going to make it out, but it's Swindle coming out with the killing spree right now. They clean house, but Korok, the king to stand on the end, dishing out all that huge damage, tries to make it to the end, but Ziz ends up taking him down. Swindle gets the double kill. It's absolute blood slaughter here in the Complexity jungle. It's a 4-for-3 trade. Whew, my goodness, that was quite dramatic.
I'm really surprised, though, that NaRv decided that they were going to get into that fight. Because if you think about it, if they go for the split push, like one core hero goes to the bottom lane, it's the Viper, two go to the top, and then the supports are just free to stack or do whatever they want. What does Complexity do against a split push? Like, they don't have enough damage to take down that Viper. They don't have the amount of smokes necessary to gank MSS, who's just going to have the Hawk up at all times. And it doesn't matter too much if you gank the Leshrac. Like, look at this fight. There's only potential to lose here.
The other big thing is, if you didn't see in the bottom left corner, is Complexity also managed to sneak a courier kill during it. It was coming in, bad timing for NaRv, and even more of a bonus for Complexity from this fight. So this is a huge dramatic turn from him, not only just winning the fight, they've rid of that courier as well, and, well, you can see the back end of it here. Chad desperate with the Maldic, but Ziz just in a prime position there on the back, dishes out huge right-click damage. It's blood splatter all over the place. Korok, valiant effort to try to hang in there in the end, but it's just they're outnumbered. Plus the Weave dished out early. Their armor whittled down pretty dang low so that when the Weaver comes in to clean up, it seems almost effortless.
Oh, in this mid lane, Fly might actually be in trouble.
Fly. Burrow to the high ground, but yeah, not going to be happening. That Edict flies on through, and it was something I wanted to mention before, but seems almost irrelevant now, but Korok put more love into the Edict build-up this game. Normally I see more, especially in the mid lane, all about the Split Earth and all about the Lightning Storm. Was there anything about that at all that he just maybe wanted to push a bit harder with the Edict? I just thought that was a bit unusual.
I think he maxed the first two normally. He's just such a high level right now. He's level 13, so he's got everything maxed.
Yeah, now he has everything. But I thought before in the past, but everything kind of went chaotic before I could really address it. I just thought that was something a bit interesting. Ush, he's finally going to get the finish on that tier 2. The first tower they finally will get without it being denied. Actually, they did get the top tier 1, but it was a lot of gold that was taken away. But now they're finally get something for themselves, and, well, Corlock, he's just going to be clearing out this top lane a bit.
Look at that, though. Ush just kind of solo pushes a tier 2 tower at bottom, and they can do nothing about it. Like, they actually just have to watch as that happens. Even even the supports in middle right now, that's 1,000 HP Fog with the cloak. You're not going to kill him with just one hero, and it's got to be Fly, but that's just not enough, I guess.
Ooh, Korok needs some help. It comes in the form of both Chad and now MSS. But oh my, Korok
Actually killed him.
goes down. And there's the time lapse to make it away and make it a hit and run. But look who's also looking to get involved. Oh no, not going to be catching him out. All right, so now it's Complexity looking in a bit better form here and kind of forcing NaRv to be spread apart in a bit of an awkward position.
Yeah, and that's actually a really smart decision by Ziz to go for the Deso. I think it's kind of a go for broke play. We need damage over anything, and the positioning game is so strong for the Weaver this game because there's not a whole lot of single target lockdowns. There is the Beastmaster, but you can play around that if he doesn't have a Blink Dagger or something like that by just running away whenever he tries to gap close on you.
Mechanical question, everyone. Demonic Purge working on the Golem. Is it going to do significant damage? I know it's not an auto kill like it used to be back way in the Dota 1 days, but is it what is it? Is it like 1,000 damage? I'm not too sure. Everyone here is not really too sure, apparently. I want to say it does significant damage.
I think it's just the base. I don't think it does extra.
It doesn't do any extra? Okay.
Yeah,
then
that would be really weird.
I'm thinking back to the olden days then. I will tell you, though, the Purge does wipe out a Courier in one shot, so it's a fun little fruit fact right there. Now, Complexity moving on in. It's going to go ahead and whittle down the Tier 1 as much as possible. Look at this. Fly going to be able to catch out Ush on the high ground.
This is
Viper
a rock
on
target.
the run. Yep, and they got the target. Crosshairs loaded right now, and now Ush trying to make it away, but the upheaval forcing him to move oh so slow. Mech is not going to be enough to save him. Ziz now on a killing spree, and he's looking for more. Oh, Fly going to be coming up short with the Burrow. Goes right into the Sandstorm. Fogged. Going to make it out from additional trouble, but Complexity continue to assert their dominance. You can see double trouble coming out from Swindle as he does have that Agnes and Midas pairing, plus a lot of gold on top of that, and they're going to continue this momentum down towards the Tier 2.
The problem right now for NaRv is that they haven't killed the Warlock whatsoever. He's been able to snowball really hard in every single fight so far and in all the engagements. He just kind of sits in the back casting the upheaval. He doesn't die.
Korok's in trouble. He might be caught out. Defensive disruption might only delay the inevitable. He's going to get some extra ticks off with the ultimate. Chad getting down to pretty decent death ward right
Ziz
here.
actually goes down.
But they do manage to take down the Weaver. And now it's a self-dazzle Shallow Grave to make it away from this one. And Fogged, he gets dropped. MSS finally unleashes his Primal Roar, but it might be just trying to save his ally, which is not going to be happening. He himself, very wounded, has to make it back. Ush, right back into the action here. Viper Strike is going to make it go onto Ziz, but he gets the heal coming out from Moon. That Tier 2 finally goes down, but it still ends up being a 3-for-1 trade. So though NaRv very, very benefit in their laning stage, we're starting to see as the team fights erupt, it continues to be Complexity one after the other.
Yeah, I thought Ziz was going to go down, but the time lapse is so strong. It's hard to just kind of focus him down in these chaotic team fights where you've got the Warlock Golems going off. And I mean, this is the perfect scenario for Complexity. To be able to use the Rock to get a gank off and then push for a tower immediately after. That's your exact game plan, and I feel like NaRv are kind of feeding into it as they're presenting opportunities for Swindle to drop down the Rock. Like, he's looking for 1 or 2 heroes. He's going to drop it every single time if they're near a tower. Because you don't want to just drop it on top of a tower. It's kind of a little bit underwhelming at that point.
If you can find an opportunity to drop it near a tower onto someone, then you're golden here. And, well, look at that. Undying. The newest shoes on the block in the Dota world. The Greaves going to be picked up for him. A solid grab for this hero. There's a few strong candidates out there for the new pair of shoes. You got your Huskar. You got your maybe even occasional Dazzle every once in a while. But Undying, I think he benefits a lot from this. Going to be a big impact for his team. They're clearly starting to work with, I don't know if I would identify it as a full death ball, but they're definitely trying to 4-5-man down these lanes, and those Greaves could really shine. And now NaRv, maybe a behind-the-back play here. They sneak into the Roche pit, and they succeed in taking it down. Good grab for them, and it's going to be Korok who picks up the Aegis on his Lesh.
That was absolutely crucial, because I feel like if Complexity gets that Roshan, they get a refresher on the Warlock, and then they give the Aegis to the Weaver, and they're unstoppable.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the game just ends there. You can't really come back from that, because if you get Rax in the mid lane, then they just have to start throwing down double rocks every single time it's up in the bottom lane until you take 2 sets of Rax, and then the gold lead from there is a little bit too insurmountable. I think that what NaRv have to do is try to look for pickoffs, or try to engage before the Warlock can get the double refresher rock off. But I mean, it's going to be difficult as Warlock is level 16 right now. He's quite close to the refresher on top of that. Like, they have to engage before the towers hit.
Oh, they might find MSS here. It looks like they will. They move in. Tombstone going to be dropped. The Weave already out. He's just going to go for a Hail Mary of a TP, but oh, not happening. He gets slaughtered straight out. And it's going to be Z-Freak who picks up the kill. This is unfortunate now for NaRv getting caught out of position, but very nice for CoL. They're going to take that, move right to the bottom, and clear out a fancy little Tier 1 here. Leading out your net worth topper, it's now Swindle on that Warlock. He's going to continue to inch closer to that refresher, and things are going to be a bit of a problem here.
I'm really a big fan of the way that Korok is playing this Lesh, though. He's just trying to get as tanky as possible, so he's in the middle of the team fight, kind of soaking up all the damage, getting in the way of everybody. I think this is the correct way to play this game, especially. You want to create a buffer between you and the rest of your team. Like, you want the Viper to be able to survive. You want the Witch Doctor, who's gotten, like, godly death wards off every single engagement so far. You want that to last as long as possible, and that's the only real way that you're going to get into an engagement. The problem, though, is look at this bottom tier push. You've got a Deso on the Weaver. You've got 2 rocks available for you. I mean, you know, from the Aghanims, and so it's too difficult right now for NaRv to fight into that, but at the same time, giving up tier 2 towers against a guy that's going to get a refresh orb right now, I think that's a recipe for it as well. No, that's for the Lincolns.
Oh, but that's more items. Very scary right now. Complexity looking pretty damn good at this point. Ziz being able to throw together now that extra defensive tool in the Lincolns. Though Viper Strike, and I know Ush is building towards the Aghanims, could rid of the Lincolns pretty dang fast, but it still rids of one Viper Strike altogether here. So, yeah, there it is. He's now got it complete. And there also is the Magic Watermelon Refresher. Now done on your Warlock. So, do we just feel like at this point Complexity will overall have the better team fight and they should look to utilize this refresher as fast as possible, maybe possibly trying to breach into the high ground at this point? There's only one more outer tower standing for NaRv, and that's their northern tower just outside their base.
I mean, I've got this expression right now. It's like, how did this Warlock get as farmed as he is? Like, they're going to have the vastly superior team fight if he can get both rocks off. Like, that's the key here, is that if NaRv can somehow find a way to isolate him out, maybe roar him, follow up with the Lesh, throw everything on him at once, and try to pull him down as fast as you possibly can, then you probably win a fight, especially if you force Swindle to use those rocks defensively. But, I mean, in a straight-up engagement, let's say Complexity just kind of make their way bottom, start beating on the tower, get the Deso hits off onto the tower, and then you drop 4 rocks on top of it at once. It's going to go down so quickly, especially at this phase of the game. It's a 27-minute refresher orb Aghanims hand to Midas Warlock. I'm actually just blown away right now.
Yeah, and right on cue, Mr. Nahaz lets us know it's only the 15th time that Warlock has finished his refresher orb before the 30-minute mark, so it's a very stellar performance coming out from Swindle Melons, one that could be quite complicated for NaRv. NaRv playing things a bit more defensively, obviously, probably looking to stall out a bit so the Aegis will expire. You know, don't really want to have to fight into that, but eventually the fight will come. And I have to say, I don't know if you feel the same way. MSS on his Beastmaster, haven't really been able to see him utilize more of an offensive Primal Roar yet this game. Maybe is that more because the opportunity hasn't really been there, or do you think that maybe MSS has been playing a bit more reserved?
I think the opportunity hasn't been there. I mean, MSS has sick amounts of farm right now. Getting a Necro Book 3 that quickly into the game as an offlaner against the type of lane that he was against is really impressive. But Complexity have kind of just played this like group, don't show ourselves on the map, and then immediately show the 5-man show force, which doesn't really go well against the Beastmaster. Like, the Beastmaster wants to try to look for the individual pickoffs with just the Necro Books and him, or him plus one other hero early game, and those opportunities haven't really presented themselves. So I think it's a combination of MSS. He's playing like smart. He's not trying to force anything. He's waiting for opportunities to develop, and I think that's the correct response. But right now, Complexity, I mean, they're just playing really well right now. Is that they have a strategy. They're executing it really well. They're kind of just playing this like group mentality. Let's see what we can get. And right now, I think they're just going to try to go for broke right now. I think go to the mid lane because it's the most pushed in. Gank somebody if you can. If you can't, you're right at their doorstep anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Like, this smoke is a win-win situation.
Yeah, they make a big fight here. They use the rock. They come out big on a fight. They can use those rocks to push into base and probably easily rid of the racks here. So this is going to be a huge fight for NaRv to kind of fend off. And on the other side, a huge fight for CoL. They come out big and successful here. You know, they could end up taking this game #1. But for now, the opportunity not there. NaRv playing a bit more reserved. You see Fog back in the middle of the base, just kind of waiting out. They know a lot are missing from the map. They have a decent spread of wards out there to kind of see where the heck, you know, the Complexity actually are. They didn't have direct vision of the smoke itself, but you can kind of do the math that by deduction, something fishy's happening right now.
Yeah, they have to know that Complexity, after this timing, they're just going to go all out for it because they're not really waiting on anything else. It's not like the Weaver will get a BKB. I mean, the Undying's built for Guardian Greaves. The Warlock has everything that he's pretty much going to get. This is the best possible timing that you're going to get. And I really like that NaRv, when they went for the Roshan, I think that was a defensive steal. It's one of those, we have to try to delay the clock as long as possible. And you're seeing their playstyle reflect that. Because typically when a team takes the Aegis, it's like, okay, it's time to take every single tier 1 and tier 2. But that's not the case at all. They're like, okay, we have the Aegis now. Let's just use this as a defensive tool. Hopefully they fight into a 6v5. That would be the best possible case. But if not, we'll just buy ourselves more time, because that's what NaRv are trying to do right now. They're just trying to buy as much time as possible for that one fight. Because Complexity, they don't get a lot of opportunities at this. If their push gets repelled once or twice, then the confidence starts to decrease by Complexity. They're like, oh, well, we're kind of stuck into this, we have to go for broke kind of scenario.
And if NaRv are going to be waiting out for that one special fight, is their key component going to be Korok on this Lesh? He's been able to throw together a Yules after his Bloodstone, which unfortunately did have to go down to 4 charges now, but he does have, as pointed out, about 2,400 gold saved up. We could expect to possibly see the Octarine Core come up as next, so that they continue to stall maybe for something like that and have him as the key factor in these fights.
Yeah, he's going to be the primary damage dealer overall, and he's actually going to go for just pure tankiness, which I think is the right idea. His damage dealing isn't the issue for him, it's survival. Being able to survive all 4 of those rocks and the Tombstone and the Sand King ultimate isn't easy, and so I just kind of want to take a look at the Viper's items to really get a...
Pimp, please.
Yeah, so he's got SNY, Aghanim's mech. That's about as defensive as it gets, right? Like, he's really beefy, he's got a lot of HP. He's got the mech on top of that.
Oh, look at this. Korok has found a little Scorpion over here, and he's able to get Fly what feels like relatively easy. Fly just maybe split pushing a lane, a bit far from home, but he will get punished. Nothing too dramatic for the side of Complexity, but it's a new step in the right direction for NaRv. This is obviously going to be able to easily rid of that little Viper Strike, and he'll get bullied away from the lane. But NaRv in a more comfortable spot, it feels like here, just based on their body language, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you get a pick off like that, CoL guy, it just extends the timer even more for you. Like, you're just trying to wait things out for as long as you possibly can. And so that's reflected of that, right? NaRv are taking chances. They're pushing up the lanes as much as they can, so that Complexity doesn't have that opportunity to just go for that one push into the yank, into the double rock where we just managed to take racks off of them. Like, it's delay, delay, delay. Look for whatever single pickoffs they can, get out, push out the lanes, and then just reset the timer for as long as you can.
I can't help but feel like that this might just have to come down to one epic Armageddon of a fight. I mean, it's either going to be a big one for Complexity where they get the most and their double rocks come out and then they take over the base, or they come up short, they're stuck without their big bread and butter of an ultimate, and it's going to be NaRv who continue to push on, because NaRv are not as based around their big ultimates. They have Viper Strike, which is continuous, obviously. Lesh doesn't have to worry about cooldowns too much. Primal Roar has got a relatively short cooldown, but whereas Complexity are more built around this Warlock and when the big fight does break out. So I feel like it's going to be possibly that one and done, if anything. Possibly, could end up being a big fight, moving to Roche, a little bit of period there, but oh man. More tools start coming together here for NaRv, though, as you see. Chad's going to be able to get that Aghanim Scepter on his Witch Doctor. And is it a level 3 Death Ward right now? It is not yet. Only level 11, actually. So he's got a little ways to go, but hey, at least the spread's going to be there.
Yeah, that's the thing that they're waiting for, right? Is that you just need to get as much farm as you can, and the Witch Doctor getting an Aghanim is actually so huge. If you can get, what he should wait for, I think, is wait in the back for as long as you can, pop the heal in case your teammates need heals, and then just wait, delay, 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 wait for the 2 rocks to come down, and then go for that big ultimate, because it's the main thing that's going to save them at this point.
Magic Cape, take me away! Fog makes it back to base with the help of that Glimmer Cape. No problem right there. Roche is back, everyone, so, time to beat his ass.
Isn't that so scary and depressing?
I always say this.
Yeah, villagers just show up, loot you,
it's like,
and then you're just like...
I'm back. My home, my tiny apartment's great. Kick his ass!
Have you ever seen 50 First Dates?
Yes.
That. It's like, he wakes up, he has no memory of what just happened, and he's like, you know what, today's a new day. He's like, it's New Year's.
The sun is shining.
I'm going to start working out again. And then he just gets the crap kicked out of him, like,
hey,
the
friends.
moment he lives.
Yeah. Hey, no, not my precious Aegis. It was an heirloom handed down from my grandfather, Roche. Oh, no. No, sorry, buddy.
Roche is the tragic figure in all of Dota.
Really is, man. No one gets their ass beat more than this guy right here. So, with that, he is back up and ready. No team really kind of circling the pit yet. Obviously, the vision advantage could be on the side of NaRv with the benefit of the Hawk. And, well, just as I finished talking about it, it looks like NaRv going to be the one to go in there and, well, whoop them down. Do they have the luxury of doing it, though? It's very scary to do against a team like Complexity. That's a very congested area for a team that has, well, the rocks.
That's how they want to fight. They just want to throw down Dwayne Johnson twice in a row and hopefully win the fight. Like, that's
the people's elbow.
Yeah, you're just gonna suplex them down. That's the main goal, is to try to get them into a small enclosed space where you get a lot of like tight areas. You don't want NaRv to have a lot of room to work with. So you want them to fight under things like the Tombstone and things of that nature. The problem right now the NaRv are running into is that they want to take this Roshan because you can't give it to the Weaver twice. Like, killing him twice is going to be too difficult.
Yeah.
But if you fight into that area, it's also kind of a lost cause. Like, it's going to be too difficult.
Ooh. Solid pick up, the hood coming out from Moon. He's looking to press forward to the pipe, which has been buffed not that long ago here. An item that people regularly forget, you know, maybe just trying to stay free and stay clean, but could be very utilized here when you're going against the Slash. You're going against this big magic potential. But here we go. Complexity feel a bit more confident, you know, messing around with the Roche, feeling like they have a stronger team fight as long as they keep their big fighters out there on the outskirts. And they're just going to inch it down, and it looks like the Weaver is going to be picking it up. There it is. Uh-oh. So now, what do we look for them to do? Are they going to do a bit of a rinse and repeat, stalling things out a bit, hoping that the Aegis will eventually expire? Or is there going to have to be a point where maybe Complexity just decide to get the most out of this Aegis, push on down, and NaRv just going to have to fight in the high ground?
I think you all in if you're Complexity right now. You just saw the Beastmaster Roar used. I think the Sand King has his ultimate up as well. Like, there's not anything that you really are waiting for at this point. Like, that was the best possible scenario. The Beastmaster just used his Roar mid. You know it's down for about 65, 60 more seconds. By the time you actually get to the base, it'll be like, oh, it's actually, my sense of time is really
It's okay,
at earliest it's like 20 seconds by the time it comes out, so you have a bit of a window, but it looks like the Warlock actually went back. Does he have travels at least? Is this why he's doing this? Yeah.
Well, he has lots of money. Yeah, he just purchased the travel.
He's
Actually,
just
almost
stuff
enough
and
for
stuff.
bots, too, if he wants to go real crazy with the shoes. We'll have to see. But for now, they step back. So not quite that all-in push yet for Complexity, at least not until they have everyone together. But they know that they're split apart, so they were really hunting on forward to hope to get a pick off there. But it's not going to come too easy, though they'll take out a couple of wards along the way. Uh-oh. Okay. Bird scouting out in the forefront. Get decayed. A lot of bird hate, but here's Swindle back into the action right here. NaRv could be caught grouped up here if not careful.
Yeah, this is going to be the one-off team fight that you were talking about, so good luck casting everything at once.
This is
so
what I hate.
many things are going to happen at once.
And I'm going to miss at least like 80% of it, I feel. But let's see. Channel my inner youth and hope that I can scout everything out. But here comes Complexity starting to knock at the front door of NaRv here. Are they going to be knocking with some rocks? Or are they going to try to slow siege this in hopes that maybe NaRv will be out of position? To the benefit of NaRv, though, you can already see it now. Fog, though he's getting pretty low on mana, continues to dish out the poison here. Could be a bit deceptive. Next thing you know, you have 4 or 5 stacks on you, and things could be a bit rough. But okay, that's the signal blitz. Defensive weave out. It's go time.
Complexity aren't even aiming for the best fight. They'll take anything that isn't absolutely awful. Like, if they get any sort of initiation off or any sort of timing, they're just going to all in for it right now.
They pop the Lincolns. Viper Strike early onto Ziz, though he is your Aegis holder, so he's free to still kind of slow siege down that tower and be out in the front. Gets his heal up from both the Dazzle and the Undying, and they kind of step back. Very methodical, disciplined play. Uncharacteristic of your American Dota, but they're doing it.
They're just trying not to throw the game right now. They're waiting it out. They realize there's so many different scenarios, and most of them they're going to win these fights, and they're going to drop the Tombstone to try to hope NaRv kind of stack up for this. And Swindle doesn't want to drop the rocks quite yet, though.
Ooh, he's thinking about it. The Glyph already goes out. The Tombstone is down. And Ziz is still on those front lines, putting it down. Okay, Upheaval actually going to be coming out here from Swindle first. We'll cancel it and step back. Man, this is finicky play. They get the new Viper, but there's the committed go.
Oh!
The rock's going to get dropped, and it's a big one. Right onto NaRv. They're immediately going to lose Fog. Not looking to buy back quite yet. There's going to be the buyback. And now Chaos is out. Look at all the rock people fly. Ziz moves on in. He's got the Shallow Grave to live it on out, but he's still got the Aegis. It's going to be used right there. Chad running to the south side to make it away from this. Still NaRv holding on. They get the Splitter. If they're looking to go for Ziz, the Primer Roll follow. They're going to get the Weaver down. They got him dropped. Now the self-fuels. Korok looking to get himself into a newfound position. Those rocks still doing pretty big work. They're able to bring down Fog. That's a dieback for him. The Witch Doctor Chad also goes down. MSS forced to buy back to get into this one. That tier 3 still standing. Finally going to get brought down right here. But this is it. NaRv really need to look to hold. Otherwise, they're going to be losing both of these racks. Here comes the TP back on in. It's going to be Ush first on the scene. Then you're going to see Korok coming in here after. MSS charging forward, but he does not have that Primal Roar. He's so much damage from these golems. Finally, they start chunking down one by one. When the damage is done and the dust clears Blitz, it's going to be a tier 3 and 1 racks. I feel like that could have gone a lot worse. NaRv, a respectable hold. Is this their time now to try to take it to the other side while the rocks are on cooldown?
I think so. I think at this point, you don't just wait to die. You got to play aggressively at this point. Go all in for it. At least try to take some towers down during this time period, because you know everything from Complexity's down. The buyback on the Weaver's down. They don't have the Warlock ultimate or the Refresher up. If there's any time period for them to kind of go for broke, it's now. Because if they just keep playing the defensive game, Dakota, they're going to sit in their base, wait to die. If one fight goes wrong, then they get mega creeped instantly. Like, you have to play proactively if you want to win this game.
Warlock quickly goes to the library and picks up the good book. Right to level 3 with it. They got a big chunk of money after taking down that Rax, but here comes NaRv back the other way now. Dish out the early tombstone here. It's going to help him zone him back quite a bit. Here, throw out the cask. Only going to be spread between the two. Moon's going to pop out his ultimate right here and go into his final form, but NaRv's still looking to hold here for now. And they're looking to stay committed. Take advantage of this opportunity while the Warlock ult is still down and on cooldown. Though how much longer could it be? Death Ward is up, however. And here they go. They would love to at least get their own even trade if possible. Moon with that pipe, going to pipe it up right now. Fly gets his own Lincolns. So they consider having him lead in. They will. Burrow Strike is going to be catching on Ush. But Ush is getting healed up now. Voodoo Restoration, their own fair heals are here. This is just such disciplined play for both sides. They do not want to look to overthrow. Complexity drop this fight, then all that effort down the mid lane is pretty much going to be turned to a wash. If more of an advantage for NaRv. If NaRv drop it at this point, then, well, that just doesn't look good. If you're not able to get things done while both rocks are out, then things are going to be pretty damn grim. Another tombstone dropped. They continue to inch in and out here. Just looking to wait for it to expire. But ultimately, Blitz, it looks like they're not going to be able to get as much as they'd like, and we still have a good chunk of time before Roche will even be back.
I think Na'Vi are actually going to be super happy with how things went because they only lost one melee Rax in the tier 3 tower. They didn't have to invest too much into buybacks or anything like that. I know MSS came in, and but they were able to repel. They forced the buyback onto the Weaver. He also died in the middle of that fight by a Great Ward by MSS. He was so patient with that and waited for the Lincolns to pop and the Aegis to pop, and so I think you're relatively happy if you're Na'Vi, because I felt like things were going to go even worse than that, right? Like, they dropped the tombstone, they get a 4-man double rock off, like, things could have been disastrous, but the fact that they managed to hold in that type of scenario is going to be really happy.
Now it's more NaRv going right back into their farming groove, trying to itemize, get those extra bit of defensive tools or offensive tools necessary to probably thwart off the inevitable next push of complexity with the new double people elbow right there. So we'll have to see. And it looks like Ush this time has his AC ready to go. Korok obviously had Shivas, but he's looking to get that Octarine core now. Already has the Soul Booster done. That would be a nice, fruitful grab for him. Getting all that extra magic spell. Life Leech, more life, of course. The cooldown's all reduced for at least his Split Earth and his Lightning. And we'll have to see if it's going to be enough. This could be another calm before the storm blitz, but hey, I was wrong. It's not going to be that one and done. We get two and done, maybe.
Because I think Complexity were, as much as Na'Vi were happy about it, I think Complexity were a little bit disappointed. They figured they would just kind of stomp that fight, go on and win the game, but it was a little bit weaker than they thought it would be, and that's got to be a little bit demoralizing, but they still have opportunities. I mean, they did take Rax at the end of the day. You just kind of hope for a little bit more than that. Like, you want a little bit more of a dominant fight, or you would have liked to take both sets of Rax if you could.
Here comes CoL. Smoked up and on the move just before 44-20. How ironic is that? Now they look to move on down here. Couldn't let that one slide without a giggle. But it looks like they're not going to be finding anyone out here on the side. Nice. And, well, oh, wow, they're committing a lot. There's no one down there right here. I guess they just anticipated that maybe someone from the NaRv side was kind of hiding out in that corner. But, nope, back and forth we go. CoL working at the bottom. NaRv on the other side of the globe, looking to kind of split push out a bit towards their own side here. I mean, I'm just not anticipating NaRv look to go on the offensive at all to try to make their own push happen. Certainly not while Complexity have the double rock. Or will they use that as maybe an element of surprise, making their own offensive push while no one has an Aegis?
Honestly, I think that CoL need the Aegis to fight. The Weaver goes down too easily. There's too many things that can break his Lincolns, right? You just throw down the Lightning Storm, and then, or you trick him with the Viper Strike, and he's like, okay, well, I blocked that, and then all of a sudden you get Beastmaster Roar. And Na'Vi, they do have enough damage to take him down. You can just target him with the Death Ward during that time period. It's long enough. I think for Complexity, you've got like 3 or 4 more pushes in you, so you're not really too worried about anything. The key is just to not get rebuttal killed, right? And they were able to hold that one time. It's like both the rocks were down, and yet Na'Vi weren't able to take anything. That's best possible case scenario. You just want as many opportunities as you can to push the base.
And Korok clearing out the wave here. Just minor damage on that tier 3, and as Nahaz pointed out, Complexity side, they have a bit more on the side of their supports and their backstaff. You see Fly's almost getting towards that 10k net worth mark, and then you look over on the side of NaRv, and you still have Fogged trying to scrape together what he can, you know, still kind of just working with that Agnum's recipe, but that's going to be way off in the horizon, obviously. So maybe a Force Staff is a little bit extra defensive tool to get away from the rocks.
Yeah, Force Staff is like the best possible support item. I know like Kevin really likes the Agnum Scepter on the Shadow Demon.
He really just likes the hero in general.
Yeah, but there's no way that he's going to be able to farm it this game. And I think that's okay because the Shadow Demon isn't going to make or break your fights with the type of items he has. Nor is Witch Doctor once you get the Agnum Scepter. Like everything after that is just bonus gold. It matters more that I guess the Sand King gets as much farm as he can. Just because Swindle, aside from his rocks, isn't going to do any real physical damage. He doesn't really have a nuke associated with the hero either. So they need a little bit more oomph in their team fights in terms of damage. And it's got to come the way of the supports. Because if you look at the way that Moon's built, Undying as a hero is... He's not going to be a huge damage dealer, right? Like, what does he have? He's got Guardian Greaves, a pipe. Like, that's not any sort of damage dealing. So you need at least one more source. You can't just rely on the Weaver and the Warlock golems.
What would that source be? I mean, Undying, not one to really stretch this far into the game. Usually by now you'd hope that you'd have a commanding lead that the rest of your staff would be able to kind of pick up the point. Also, zombies can kind of be shrugged off. Maybe the slow could still help out, but it could be a bit of a delicate thing to keep that Undying maybe relevant at this late into the game.
I think you would need an AC on somebody on Complexity. You might as well just stack a ton of auras, and you've got enough things, like units, that it'll be useful. Like Swindle Melons now has a Necrobook 3 as well.
Okay, Maelstrom now picked up from Ush. New extra tool, helps wave clear it out a little bit, keeps their push going pretty damn hard. They were able to bring down that tier 3 in the top lane here. And how are we looking as far as Roche goes? It's up. He's back. It's his third time now. He's got the Gouda. Someone's got to take it.
That's a family recipe, man.
I handed down from my great-grandfather Roche, just like my Aegis.
Dota people are really messed up.
So this is very crucial for Complexity to take, just like we talked about last time. So they look to move in. This time NaRv nowhere close. They're actually pushing this top lane here. Complexity, they might see this. Are they going to just have Ziz finish it out? But Korok's moving on in here, Blitz. Okay, Burrow trying to slow him down. The Fly ends up eating a bit of his own damage. They're going to be able to get the Yules on Swindle. Oop, followed up with the Split Earth. This could be a huge pickup. Primal Roll follow-up. Now he should have a buyback, but he's going to be forced to use it. 87 seconds otherwise. They're making it go with the racks right here. NaRv looking to hit him hard and where it hurts right now. Look at the damage. Ush really right-clicking it home. Still no buyback. There it is going to be. Now the Burrow going to be flying out on Ush, but it's not quite enough. Look at this. NaRv see the buyback, and they're like, we've had enough, but are they going to let him get away here? There's going to be one rock dropped only onto Ush, and then with that, he's looking to turn back. Refresher's going to be flying on out. Ush is confident that he could really take it to Swindle here. Now, he's going to pop his mech. He's just going to sacrifice his life to try to do as much damage, it looks like, and hold him on out. But meanwhile, on the other side, Witch Doctor is going to go down to Ziz, catching him off on the backhand lines. Moon gets the finishing blow onto Ush. No surprise, Ush obviously aware he has his buyback, just kind of holding them back a bit. Now, the rock is already dropped, and it's for a defensive rock, so this is pretty nice for NaRv, I'd have to say.
The Warlock also uses Refresher. I think they're just going to go ham for this, like they have to. I think they march down the mid lane. They've got an Aegis and the cheese. Your opportunities are kind of getting a little bit diminished with how things are going so far. And that's what I was talking about. If you can force the Warlock to be in a defensive position, use his rocks, it doesn't mean as much. Because there's no way that the rocks are going to be able to travel all the way from that top area into the mid or anything like that.
Oh boy. Top lane goes down on
Flash
CoL.
is trying to cancel TPs.
Yep. And look at this. They're going right for the jugular here, Blitz. Swindle going right for those tier 4s. Usher's going to show up here. That buyback coming out, and he's trying to stop them. Oh, Viper Strike onto Moon. The Glyph is going to be here. Fog now shows up, getting off the early poison. Fly up in arms of Korok. Korok's not going to be able to make it back. He has no TP and no way to wake it home. This is Complexity's chance to try to round out this game if possible. One tier 4 about to drop right here. Ush moving in, gets off the secondary Viper Strike. Ziz going to be healed up now from Moon Meander, but they're already going to town. The second tier 4 to drop here momentarily, but there we go. Primal Roar to fly out here on Swindle. Swindle going to be saved with the Grave. That Death Ward, though, continues to do out the damage, but they're going to stop it with the rock drop right now, and the cheese going to be popped. Swindle still holding on. Here comes an Epi from Fly to save him on out. Can they stop the Beastmaster? They can. He goes down. Now Korok makes it back into his base, but he's welcomed with a stun, dishing out that continuous damage, but he's eating way too much himself. Desperate, throws up his own Yules, trying to make it back in a way, but can he make it out alive? The Burrow's going to be there from Fly. He goes down. He now has to buy back and return into the battle, but Ziz has already cleaned out and finished off the Beastmaster. They're looking to go for the throne here. but they're slowing him down with the lightning strike. Now, Korok moves right back in, trying to make a go. Z-Freak staying alive. Moon Meander might not be so lucky, barely inching it out. They're all so low. Swindle going to be caught with the splitter. If they're moving back in, they're going to get fogged. Ziz looking to clean up. He's going to go down now. He does have a buyback. He's out for 100 seconds. Now, I don't think Complexity are going to be able to finish out the game at this point. Korok gets his double kill. It does cost a lot on the side of the NaRv to hold out this big push. My God, Blitz. What the hell happened?
Everybody was like on the edge of their seats right now in the studio, like like the mouths were open. I mean, I haven't seen a team fight like that in quite some time. That was so exciting to watch. It was just really good defense by NaRv, and they're going to go for this all-in counter push. They know that Swindle's down for quite some time. He doesn't have the refresher orb. He doesn't have buyback at all. This is the moment right now for NaRv to strike back, and they have to get a lot out of this. This is a minimum investment of 1 Rax, because you know, Naked Throne, no Glyph on cooldown. Once Complexity have the refresher orb, they just march down the mid lane and all in for the throne.
There's not much you'll be able to do about it, so here comes NaRv. Will they be able to take this game right back? It's Korok and Ush, the top two. These two have been record-breaking all the way up to this point through the qualifiers, and we're counting on this tag team to bring it home if you're a NaRv fan. But for Complexity, they're going to be holding out. They have no Swindle, and as you pointed out, no, it means no rocks, nothing at their arsenal and ready. They're going to do the preemptive grave. And also, there's going to be the weave. Korok, oh man, you can already see the damage going to be built up. But Primal Roar going to catch out Ziz. He tried to charge on forward. The grave going to be there to save him on out. Plus, they'll have the heal coming out from Moon. Now he's able to step back. Time lapse going to be used. Epicenter charge on forward. Big damage onto Korok. He needs some help. He's going to get Yule's up. Blade Mill reflecting a bit of the damage, but they can't stop it. Korok is out. Almost 80 seconds. He has no buyback. It looks like NaRv not going to be able to do it. They can't quite get into the base. It's only Ush now in this top lane. He might be able to get Complexity to pull back and stall out before they push on forward. Because Korok does have that Bloodstone, he's going to be back in just a minute time, so could be there for the next big push of Complexity, but that is very heartbreaking if you're on the side of NaRv, not being able to really get into that base and do a lot of work.
Yeah, and right now, without the Leshrac up as well, and the Warlock has everything up, I believe. If you take a look at his Refresher Orb, yeah, it's just cooled down. I mean, if you're NaRv, you're really worried. You don't have the Leshrac. What was keeping you in this game so far was the amount of buybacks that you were able to put up any sort of defense, but they're just going to march down this mid lane, and Ush realizes that as well. He's like, okay, maybe we can go for some sort of throne race scenario, but it's just not going to be possible at this race.
Here they come. Ush trying his best to maybe divert their attention elsewhere right now. But here comes CoL right down that mid lane. Early Viper Strike going to get rid of that Linken's, but Ush has to step back and look at Ziz. He's going right for the throne. Now they're able to dish out the Primal Roar, but it doesn't stop Ziz. Ziz has one thing in mind, and that's finishing this game. Here comes Swindle with the rock drop onto Ush. The secondary one off to the right-hand side for Chad as he tries to get off the Death Ward, but it's going to be canceled, and it looks like Complexity are going to be taking game number 1 against NaRv in this best of 3. What a play from them.
Yeah, this was one of the most fun games I've been able to watch. Like, I was stuttering over myself trying to get out everything that I wanted to. I mean, there's just so much going on in every single fight, and for Complexity to be able to win that, there were time periods where I was like, okay, they've just lost the game. Like, they weren't able to push. They got only 1 set of racks. NaRv going to hit right back, but then all of a sudden they get 1 or 2 pickoffs. They fight as close to perfect as they possibly can. They're able to hold their own base several times. I mean, that's about as good of a game 1 in a best of 3 that you want to get.
I know we have 1 more game to go, at least, possibly 3 here. This has already been a winded series. I am sweating, if you can't tell it is right now. But hey, joining us right back in the studio to our right-hand side, we have the lovely Hani and Purge back, frantically taking notes, gentlemen. What were your impressions in game number 1?
Incredible game. That's the least I can say. Other than that, I was very impressed by the performance of SK, of Fly.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just not one of his very common heroes. Usually would see him on a Rubik, something more passive and whatnot, right? But with a Sand King, I think he pretty much set this game into a victory for the side of Complexity here.
Purge, would you agree with that as well?
Yeah, it was about the early rotations. He basically, I mean, if Korok was super paying attention, he could say, Warlock ulti's up, Sand King's going to be back. Because every single time it was up, he came to the mid lane, the rock, the burrow strike, and that was a kill. He got a bit lucky one of those times with that last bash hit from the golem. But as a whole, that early pressure kept Korok maybe not as overpowering as you normally see him. And then they used that snowball to get the fast ags and win a couple fast team fights. So they did a really good job getting a gold advantage, and that moved into the mid and late game.
So before we cut to a break and get ready and amped up for game number 2, I believe we do have the scores. We can actually check out the depth numbers right there. It felt like quite a long and exhausting game. But I feel like one of the biggest things was Swindle was able to succeed, as few Warlocks can, in being able to throw together that Midas, throw together that Agnums, then a Refresher, all before the 30-minute mark, and you saw the devastating damage it could do. Did NaRv need to do a little bit more to stop him from getting from that peak point, or really it's just there was nothing you could do about it?
I think they had to stop Swindle a lot more. I think the focus for Complexity was, okay, we're going to slow down Korok as much as you can, and their game plan reflected it. Like Kevin said, I was thinking to myself, okay, Korok plays so aggressively. Like, he follows the creep wave into the tower, and Hani knows that. That's like the pub trick to force the other mid and kind of assert your dominance. And typically, Korok isn't kind of pressured because of the dual lane setups, but because Fly was that jungle Sand King, he could pop in. He doesn't really lose anything from coming out of the ganks, and they just timed it so well. Every single time the rock was up, they would get in position. Sand King could wait at the top of the hill and then come in as the Warlock rock drops, and Korok has no time to respond. And because I want to say 14, 15 minutes, he got his refresh orb at like 25, and timings like that are almost unbeatable when you're playing Warlock.
Now, would you agree with what Hani said, that maybe Fly would be the MVP? You know, even though he's only scoring like a 1-7 record, he was there when needed to kind of set things up, kind of take him right back. What do you think? Purge Fly MVP, or would you put it more on Ziz for playing that Weaver game?
I think Ziz did play very well, but Fly's role was absolutely crucial towards them having a gold advantage. If he didn't gank Korok in the early game, they weren't going to be in a place where they had that huge gold advantage. So those early ganks from him were definitely the game winner that put them into the safe play that they could do to slowly and surely take the win.
All right, good stuff. So with that, we need to cut to a small break. I certainly need some water. So with that, gentlemen, we'll take a few minutes, about 5 or so, and we'll be back for Game 2 of NaRv going against Complexity. We'll see you soon.
Breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. Lost in the midnight blue, shadows of the moon. Here with open arms for you, feeling something so new. Said with me you'd reach the sun, oh but we were so young. Till the summer's done, but keep me in your heart, so I hold on. So walk on by, I've got no reason to love you, but I do, I do. So walk on by, I've got no reason to love you, but I do, I do. Show me colors of the sky, but all I see is gray. You lost me when you lied. Promise me, but you never try. Secrets in your eyes. You go and run a high. Show me colors of the sky, but all I see is gray. You lost me when you lied. I don't ever wanna be crowned, just another prize. It breaks my heart. Colors of the sky, but all I see is colors of the sky, but all I see is colors of the sky, colors of the sky, but all I see is colors of the sky. But all I see is colors of the sky, colors of the sky, but all I see is
You know what I'm saying? Cause I want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? And bass up the track a little bit, cause I'm here. I want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Cause I'm here. I want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? I'm here. I want to hear that. Yeah, I want to hear that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the TI5 Qualifiers. We are in the America Qualifier region. We are actually in the winner bracket final in an epic best of three already of NaRv going against Complexity. We just witnessed Complexity take down NaRv with a Warlock and one hectic of a push. Back with me on the panel, of course, Blitz by my side as my co-commentator, and also we got Purge and we got Hani. Gentlemen, welcome back. I don't want to stall too much things out, but we're actually already have a draft underway. So let's go ahead and we'll head into the draft, and as that happens, you know, Hani, you were talking that you had a point to make about the last game a bit. What were your final thoughts and what actually went down?
I think about the last game, generally there was a few key factors that I happened to witness. I think the number one thing that I would like to point out next to the stellar performance of the Sand King was the 20-minute Desolator on the Weaver. I think it's just one of those things that doesn't happen very often. You would usually see like a Lincoln's as the first item to catch up, right? Or you want to have a save mechanism, and he chooses to get the Desolator, which is, I think, somewhat outstanding just because it doesn't happen that often. And it helped him a lot to win these early team fights.
It's very nice. Also, got to remember that Desolator a bit cheaper now because of that recent patch. So I don't know if that kind of, you know, is more of a game decider as far as, well, maybe now I can consider going that Deso first because of how much of a cheaper cost it is, or maybe it was a spontaneous pick for that particular game on how effective it could be, because he didn't seem to have to really be involved with the fights until already after having the Lincolns in there on from there. So, As we look at the draft for game number 2, already some interesting things popping out to me here. Complexity were awarded with the first pickup of the gyrocopter, but they followed up with a Nature's Prophet, interestingly enough, on the side of NaRv. Very different for them. They open up with the Lena here, and then they are going to be the ones who go for the Dazzle. Very interesting.
I think getting the gyrocopter is perfectly fine. If you're giving up the Lena and the Dazzle, it's not that big of a deal. I think Gyro is one of those heroes that is so good, and it's relatively easy to play right. Like, the Rocket Barrage kind of plays for itself. The Flat Cannon is one of the best farming mechanisms, as well as one of the best teamfight mechanisms in the game. Like, usually it's going to be one or the other, but the fact that it plays into both, I think, kind of makes the hero so strong. Like, you can go use it to farm Ancients, but then you'll win a teamfight as a result of it as well.
I'm feeling the clockwork here. I'm just throwing it out real quick.
You want to get... Okay, you're
I just
doing
want to
this
throw it in
thing.
real quick. The
Okay.
clockwork. It's something they always go for. Clock against Nature's Prophet seems pretty dang good. What do you think?
What?
Spirit Breaker.
You don't
I
think
mean,
so?
It's
Spirit
good,
Breaker.
but you have to watch out for treants and stuff. I feel
That's
like it's
true,
harder
that's
to
true.
land hook shots. I was going to say Clock is much better versus Dazzle Lena than versus the Gyro Nature's Prophet, I think.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I kind of like the Lena, potentially if it's a core. It's a good solution versus very common BKB carries like Gyrocopter. If she does get Aghanim Scepter, you can say, okay, you have half of your HP is going to be gone every single fight. And they grab a Shadow Demon, so they picked that in the last round, and it did give them a pretty safe dual lane, but Shadow Demon just wasn't a very good hero in the previous game. The heroes that they were against, Shadow Demon wasn't a good solution versus he can't really stop Warlock. They didn't have a huge amount of chain stuns. He's bad against Weaver as well. Normally you want a melee carry. He's decent against Gyrocopter because his range is a little shorter at about 400, so you can prevent him from attacking during team fights, and Gyro does want to move. So I think Shadow Demon's okay this game, but hopefully they don't get outpicked in that way, at least, like that the cores were better against Shadow Demon. So I'm a little unsure about him this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously looking like a similar startup that we saw from the last game of NaRv. Instead of the Lesh, now we have a core Lena who can obviously work together very nicely with the Shadow Demon as far as the setup goes. But are we looking at a very similar game plan here, Hani, from NaRv? Or should they have considered maybe changing things up a bit from what already happened in game 1?
I'm not entirely sure if it heads towards the same game plan. The one thing that stands out to me here is Shadow Demon in combination with Dazzle. It reminds me a lot of Alliance in terms of how they lane. It could be aggressive tri-lane, where you use the Disrupt into the Dazzle heal and potentially look towards something like a Slodar here.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice. A little extra minus armor synergy wouldn't hurt. What do you think about that, Blitz? Slardar seem to slither into your heart right there?
Yeah, it'd be pretty good against the Nature's Prophet, the Rubik, all of those heroes. It synergizes well. That's what you meant, right?
Gyro
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
It
just
just
as well
wrecks
against
him.
Gyro.
He dies to physical damage output, and even if he BKBs with a low cooldown on amp damage now, you can definitely cleave right through that, kill him really quickly.
Rubik was picked up, as you already briefly mentioned there, for Complexity. It's been their top pickup in the qualifier so far. They've already picked it up 5 times. They have a 4-1 record with it. Pretty much across the board in regions, specifically also in China, they're happy to open up with the Rubik leading in. Just a great support all around, and seems like a bit of a safe bet here. So nothing too flashy quite yet, but now we look back to the North American reject side. So outside of the Slardar, is there anything else? We also need an MSS hero for their team.
I think he's going to take Spirit Breaker, or I would anyways. It's good against the Nature's Prophet. It's good against the Gyrocopter. I think that what NaRv messed up on last game, if they did on anything, it's that they didn't get aggressive fast enough. Like, if the laning phase passes, not much happens, and you're playing against a lineup that almost entirely relies on teamfight, then your opportunities to go for solo pickoffs are completely null at that point. Like, you have to get going really early on. I feel like what NaRv should try to do is, it's going to sound dumb, but they should try to break their spirits like early on. Like, they should get aggressive on the map, look for things, look for rotations from the Shadow Demon, try to get more aggressive in the lanes, set up more for your mid player. Like, just get going in terms of map control fast as possible, because I think that if they have a good shot at winning, it's just through pure aggression and map control.
Looks like we might not be seeing our Slardar. Instead, they're going to be going for a Shadow Fiend, something that they're pretty comfortable with. Played it a lot. Ush is their primary Shadow Fiend player, which delegates, I'd imagine. Korok to the Lena core position now. Does that mean it's going to be a safe lane Lena? I always feel a bit awkward about having to put Shadow Fiend into a safe lane position.
I think especially because they're kind of under pressure on the side of NaRv is that it would not be too unlikely to see still a contesting Lena, Dazzle plus Shadow Demon here, and then potentially look towards something that's good in a one-on-one against the Nature's Prophet.
Well, they also did commit to the Enigma, so that does mean there'll be less pressure in the laning setup. Yeah.
As well as where Rubik is one of those heroes that on a short lane is rather a weak support.
That's my hero. I think it's going to be SP or Axe.
You think it's going to be Axe? He had to come over, by the way, and write it on my notepad in front of me.
I didn't want to interrupt.
He just
you.
wanted to make sure that he's like, I'm thinking Axe, so I want to take
Axe
credit
or
if it's
Spirit
picked up.
Breaker.
I don't think I've seen any Axe this qualifier. That is a bold claim, Blitz.
It's an MSS hero, though. I think if you've been watching MSS for long enough, he played it on the original Mel's, right, at TI4 quite often. If I remember correctly, Honey, you probably know this better than I do, right?
He did play that hero, yes.
And then I think that it works relatively well. And okay, it's Beastmaster.
I was
Dang
actually
it.
like, well, he also goes for
So
Beastmaster every
wrecked.
time, and I'm sorry, dude.
It's a good solution versus Enigma. They have terrible ways to stop Enigma from black holing. Disruption is an option, but that's not really how you want to use that ability. And Lina has a stun and potentially Yules, but that's one hero. So grabbing a Beastmaster is going to make them a little safer. And the Roar is pretty good against Gyro as well because he does go BKB. So
Yeah.
can waste some of his time there.
Both of them. They get a BKB, try to get out that hole. He'll be right there to answer the call. So no problem. But here we go. Last pickup for Complexity. Looks like we're going to be needing the
Mid-hero.
mid lane. The Swindle Melons hero here.
Warlock?
Dragon Knight.
Warlock's been banned already.
Oh, okay.
Zeus. Any impressions on maybe a Zeus here at all? Could prevent a little bit of the blink movement from one team to the other.
I don't think they want something that pushes or team fights well. I think it's going to be one of those two things, not so much a... I guess Zeus
Dragon
team fights,
Knight
but
then for push?
Yeah, like Will said, I think Dragon Knight's maybe a bit more likely here.
The problem I see with the Dragon Knight, I feel like right now they need something that's a bit stronger on the lane, especially because they could still be contested. It's one of the options right now. You could have a Beastmaster off lane, right? And it's just the other way around, but it's still very dangerous to me.
Viper, then?
They have weak burst damage too on Complexity, other than Rocket Barrage, that they really don't have a whole lot. So it will
But
be a
it
Dragon
is.
Knight. So
Alright.
I think they might have some burst problems, honestly. And with a Shadow Demon in the game, it's going to be tough for them to get kills. So maybe Gnar can exploit that, but it might be a moot point.
Do you think this is worth? I might think of a far-fetched kind of a scenario that these team fights could break out. Now, it's pretty obvious that potentially MSS on his Beastmaster could save out the Primal Roar for the Enigma Black Hole if it does come, regardless of BKB or not. But that could also be easily baited from the Rubik. Rubik waits out for that that Roar. Is it worth even throwing out the casual Black Hole just so they can get that opportunity to take the Primal Roar back and then use it back against him? Or am I going way too deep with this?
No, I think that you have to use the whole, to full potential. Because the full potential hole means a lot more than if the Rubik can get the Roar or not. Because if you think about the way the fight's going to look as well, the Rubik wants to stay as far apart from the fight as possible and just kind of pick and choose what kind of spells he's going to get. And if he's going to get in close, wait behind the Enigma, try to get the Roar, he's probably going to get stunned by something or disabled by something. And you want to stay as far apart from these lanes as possible. You want to be at the very edge of a fight, kind of waiting to come in and out, cast a spell, get out, wait for good ulti opportunities.
All right, fair enough. And with that, we're going to have Game 2 underway. We'll say goodbye to Purge and Hani for now, and we'll see them back at the end of the game for their analysis on what the hell actually happened. But here we go. This is a big matchup now. It's match point for Complexity. They win this game, they are guaranteed a trip to Seattle for TI5. Or for NaRv, they go to a best of 3. So we'll see. As we do begin here, they head towards the top. Once again, similar to what we saw in the last game here, Blitz putting a little bit more attention to the jungle because after all, instead of a Sand King, now they have that Enigma. So this time they might actually look to go a bit deeper. But we already see Complexity in that position to kind of be prepared.
Yeah, I think for NaRv, the strategy here this game is to try to get as aggressive as possible early, and I think that's reflected in Korok's hero choice. I actually scrimmed against NaRv a few times when they first formed, and they did this a lot. They went for the Lina +1 dual lane, try to get aggressive, get Korok some farm, and then he just kind of rotates around the map and does his own thing, right? That's the type of player that he is, and I think Ush especially works well around that. He needs the space that Korok will create from him, or vice versa. Both of them are going to try to get farm. It just kind of depends on what type of heroes they're playing. For Ush, for example, if he plays the Shadow Fiend, then he's going to be a little bit more passive, and he's going to rely on Korok to be more aggressive for him this game.
It looks like Ush will be able to claim that top bounty. The bottom will go to CoL. Fog going to be blocking out the lane right here, pretty much from the get-go. While on the side of Complexity, they're going to be intercepting it a bit late, but he lets that one creep on through here. This is a very crucial start. Now we're expecting, I would imagine, Shadow Fiend to be more primary as far as the CS goes. He builds up that extra bit of base damage, and then level 4, level 5 rolls around. You got the raises to work with. You got the pleasure of being on Radiant side with the nearby camps to build up that farm further. But it is a DK. He's not going to be easy to take down. He's got his Dragon's Blood. He's got the tankiness, but I would imagine his primary thing is he will be stuck to this mid lane, maybe hoping that Shadow Fiend deters elsewhere and tries to go for that tier 1. Would you agree?
Yeah, the problem though is that the SF clears the creep wave so fast, and the key to pushing any sort of tower is to clear the creep wave first, right? But if the SF just double raises, pulls it back, then the Dragon Knight doesn't really have too many options. And the lane, especially if you're on Radiant side, like you said, he's just going to go pull some camps, farm the lane out at the same time. Dragon Knight doesn't have the best way to pressure as well. So I think if I'm Complexity, try to pressure using the Nature's Prophet early on. Like, get a level of the stun. Once you've got maybe 2 levels of the Breathe Fire, look for the TP opportunities to get going early. Because once it hits level 5, it's going to be really difficult to try to invade that Shadow Fiend, because the Dazzle will just rotate in, sit behind the SF in anticipation of the ganks.
Yeah, no real surprise as Nahaz, our stats man. Shoutouts to him. Oh, wait, hold that thought, Nahaz. We're making a move in. The early disruption, but the return telekinesis back just to kind of keep him at bay. You can already see the aggression coming out from NaRv's dual lane here, trying to add some extra pressure onto that gyro so he can't succeed. With that, we look back. Do you think that for NaRv, it's very crucial for them to really punish this top lane of Complexity so that gyro doesn't really have too easy of a time?
They have more offensive potential, and I think they have to get aggressive early, because I think what they realized last game is that they didn't get enough out of the lanes. Like, the lanes went kind of even, but I think Complexity was incredibly happy about that. They're like, okay, we didn't lose the laning phase, and we have a push-style all-in type of comp. Let's just kind of play for the mid-game, and we're perfectly fine. Like, they must have been super happy about it. Everyone's like, don't panic, we're actually winning this game right now. And so I think for Na'Vi, what they're trying to do this game is just try to mess up the timings of Complexity, because Complexity has a very timing-oriented type of lineup. It's like, get level 6 on the Dragon Knight, try to push a tier 1 tower down, try to get 1 or 2 items on the Nature's Prophet, try to get aggressive.
Potential heal bomb with these illusions. Could be big damage, but nice immediate telekinesis going to bring back Chad in a way. Fly eats a lot of damage here. Not quite enough to bring him down, but that rocket barrage starting to come out here onto Chad. Chad's in trouble, and Chad goes down. Ziz is going to be picking up the first blood. It's Complexity who will strike first. Now Fog, very weak and wounded. The Malphus is going to be there. He's trying to etch his way through that fog to hide out. He's going to make it to the side shop, and it looks like he will be able to make it away. Thank goodness for those early boots.
Yeah, if he didn't have those, that easily could have been a double kill off the bat, and still a little bit too aggressive, because even if you get the heal bomb off, I feel like they should be able to get the rebuttal kill on at least one of the supports. And I think, yeah, you get first blood, but at the same time, you open a little bit more space for the gyrocopter, which isn't a good thing. And then on top of that, you have to win that lane harder than you are right now. Like, going down a kill without being able to pull or anything like that, you're already going to get slowed down in terms of the levels. And so this has to go a lot better. Like, they have to get at least 2 kills now for this to be okay, or they have to rotate on the Dragon Knight a lot.
Ush off to an EXP advantage as he already reaches level 5. And you see NaRv back in their position here at the top lane, hoping to consider that first blood a bit of a fluke. They'd love to get back onto the aggressive side of things. But I wouldn't mind for the bottom lane matchup, the one-on-one of Beastmaster and Furion. Now, Furion does have the CS advantage, or he actually did. Now MSS looking to take over. A battle of the summons, if you will. What do you feel about this lane right here? Not one we get to see very often.
The boar is so strong.
Yeah.
Being able to zone out is really easy with it. I mean, he's so tanky because he's got the Stout Shield. And it's hard for Moon Meander to kind of get into a 1v1 trade. It's that he just wants to be able to farm a little bit better here. Like, the Nature's Prophet is meant to... He doesn't have to do as well because his farming mechanisms are a lot easier, right? He can just TP around the map, go for the jungle, do the Ancients early on, once he gets 3 levels of the Nature's Call. So he doesn't have to win this lane as hard. And I feel like that's always the theme of Complexity, right? The lanes don't have to go super well, just kind of hold on. Because Z-Freak right now is farming out the jungle. So the fact that they were able to get that first blood in just a dual lane essentially against an offensive tri-lane means that they're just going to get out-farmed.
And no surprise, because they weren't able to block out any of those jungle camps, Z-Freak is just doing his thing that we always see on your Dire Enigma. He's already pushing past level 5 before the 5-minute mark even. Once he gets to that level 6, gets the black hole, are we expecting maybe a possible rotation to that top lane to kind of relieve some of the pressure that's been
go for the mid gank, being able to slow down Ush whatsoever is really huge. I was talking with EGM yesterday when we were doing a cast, and it feels like Shadow Fiends either have the game of their lives or they're completely useless because they have to catch up and farm. And right now, Ush is getting off to a great start.
Yeah, he has that Invis rune bottled up. Already level 6, damn near level 7, 33 and 11 CS, the highest in the game. And he's right there neck and neck with MSS up there on the XP. Ziz playing a bit more reserve. Fog has been off the radar for quite a while. He's lingering towards that mid lane, and Moon departing from his off lane, joining Z-Freak in the jungle, it looks like, at least for now. I don't know if they're looking to switch places or not, and Z-Freak will look to venture out, utilizing his black hole. Very particular nonetheless, and MSS pretty confident. Obviously, he's got the watch out there from the Hawk, seeing if there's going to be any rotations back towards his lane. But next on the agenda is getting that 6-minute rune here, and it looks like they'll be able to secure the one on the bottom.
Yeah, and farm advantage definitely goes the way of...
They got Ush pulled back right into the Dragon Tail. Dragon Form also going to be out right here. He's in trouble, and he goes down to the Breathe Fire, and they're going to get Chad as well. A nice 2 for special for Complexity. Like you said, the Enigma helps converge towards the mid lane, and they time it out perfectly. They wait for that 6-minute mark when they anticipate Ush is going to be going for that top rune, and they intercept.
Yeah, if you think about it, when you're going for a gank, you have to assume, okay, what are we going to lose going for this, or what are we going to gain, right? If they go for the Beastmaster kill, what do they really gain? It's a Beastmaster, right? It's an offlane Beastmaster. Stopping his farm timings aren't as big, but if you go for the Shadow Fiend, it means so much.
First Primal Roar comes out early. It's going to be on Fly, followed up with the Axes, and it makes for an easy first kill for the side of NaRv as they manage to get themselves onto the board. It looks like Complexity do a little bit of extra damage with the help of the Eidolons onto that tier 1, but they will be quickly farmed up and thwarted back right here. But Swindle's got a little bit of time left on that Dragon Form. Love to get a little bit more damage out of it, but it looks like it will be stopped here. So with that, still Complexity up and ahead. On top lane, here comes the rotation. Korok going to get sprouted, but quick to react on eating that tree. But here comes the body blocks. The little trees, get the hell away. Now Korok on the run. He's going to head down the ramp right here. Will someone be there to intercept? Not quite yet. There is a nearby jungler. I believe that is Z-Freak, but he's not going to be there in time. So, yep. Hi, Z-Freak. How you doing? So with that, he's going to be able to make it back to his lane. Close, but no cigar. But Korok's still getting kind of zoned away.
Yeah, that was so fast from him as well, if you notice. And, they might actually still catch him out here.
Ooh, he's going to make it away. Nope, not going to be catching him with that extra slow from the call down. But look at this. They're going to cut him off. He is getting flanked from both sides. Chad is there. He's going to be able to dish out the grave. Korok is going to make it back into safety, even help secure it with the LSA. Here comes Fog, dishes out the Soul Catcher, but it's going to be nothing too significant there. But look at this Complexity already moving as a group, all 5 at this top lane.
Yeah, they didn't want to do this, though. I think Swindle was just there because they wanted to secure the kill on Korok. But rotating that many heroes and not being able to get a tower, all it does is it creates a little bit more space for Ush, which is what he's shooting for right now, is that when the Dragon Knight rotates to try to take another tower, then Ush can actually counter-pressure the lane by being able to kill the creep so fast, and Korok might even be able to catch somebody out here.
He's thinking about it, but no, just a little bit of flirting around. So because of that, Ush was able to easily secure some extra farm in the mid lane, got that rune top. MSS gets the one bottom, so they continue to get a lot of the other 2 lanes while Complexity are getting caught up and having so much attention towards the top. So it's a good rotation pull from NaRv, and Korok does live from that potential dangerous situation. Now MSS on the return does have Primal Roar up, leads in with the Axes, only minor damage, of course, onto Moon for now. I'm very curious, for your Moon Meander Nature's Prophet, what kind of build are we going to be looking at for him? We know Furions have their deep closet of different things. We've seen over the times your Null Talisman Blade Mails, your Dagons, your Midases, your Necro Books.
At top.
Oh, here we go. Another call down. Going to be called out. This one will connect on the Korok here. Can he make it away? The Flat Cannon doing big work, but once again, Chad is here to save the day. Dishes out the grave, and Korok is going to be very thankful for that. Gets the salve as well, and we'll be back into fighting shape. And Ziz wants to see if he can get maybe an early deny of that salve, but nope. I'll have to pull on back.
I think going for something like an Orchid this game would be pretty huge. Being able to silence out the Dazzle and just keep him out of the fight for as long as you can, or being able to use it on a hero like the Beastmaster to try to nullify him. NaRv don't really have many heroes that are going to go for the BKB, right? Like, you look at their lineup, who's the natural BKB carrier? It's the Shadow Fiend, right? But you're not going to get an early Hex or anything like that.
Will third time be the charm for Korok? It looks like it will be. This time they're successful. Fly, again, persistent, like we saw in the last game. Able to kind of move on in there. This time successful in setting up a good telekinesis. Just too far out of position. This time no Chad to help out, and Korok will go down. Complexity now push their advantage even further ahead. Now 4-1.
Yeah, but I think going for an Orchid into something like a NaRv2 and just go for the split push game / team fight would be pretty good. If they opt to go all in like they did last game, well, I don't want to say all in, but if they want to go for that heavy all in aggression where they just barrel through lane to lane, I think that going for the Necro first would be better, but they would lack for damage if that was the case.
Mid lane, some pressure on this tier 1 just thereafter as NaRv secures their own tower there at the bottom, but Korok
there as alone. They're going to make the committee go. They certainly will. He's eating a lot of big damage. Breathe fire, and again, Korok will go down. Now they're going to look to follow it up. They're going to catch out Chad with the Sprout, the pullback telekinesis. He's going to be forced to grave himself, but can he make it away here? Oh, cheeky Chad. He finds a nice little corner, but no, he can't run away from the breathe fire. He ends up going down. Complexity advance again, now 6-1. And here we go. They unleash even more summons. They're going to be going for a tier 2. This is a lot of pressure coming out early from Complexity.
Yeah, and NaRv even uses smoke for this to try to wrap around and go for an initiation, but it's just not going to be possible. They just lost a tier 1, a tier 2, their carry, and another hero on top of that for absolutely nothing now.
Oh, call down. Zoning call down. Get the hell back. And with that, nothing really going to be coming out of it here. I can't help but feel like it's more pressure on this gentleman right here, Ush, to kind of step it up for the side of NaRv. Haven't seen him really do a whole lot quite yet. Looks like he's been able to finish out his mech, which certainly his team will be able to use in these kind of engagements, but it's going to be difficult here. What can we expect out from NaRv to try to bring this game back? Because at this point, it almost feels like Complexity, as long as they come together as 4 or even 5, they can kind of do as they please.
The good news for NaRv is that the heroes that they need to stay alive are staying alive. Like the Shadow Fiend is continuing to snowball slowly. I don't think he's actually only died once, that one time right at that top rune.
Yep.
And I think the Beastmaster also hasn't died once this game. Yeah, he hasn't. And so you need those 2 heroes to get as big as possible. And the Necro book is already going to fly onto MSS. So if you can get Necro 3 at around 20 minutes, they can still fight back is the thing. Like they have enough damage from what they've got off of just those 2 heroes. And then the Lina, what does she really need? Just the Yule Scepter, and she could still be effective in these fights.
And he's already got the Void Stone, so no real surprise to see Korok trying to inch his way towards it, but very uncharacteristic start for Korok and what we see from him. 0, 3, and 0 right now on his Lina. He's going to have to take a little bit of that me time and try to stay out of the danger zone unless necessary. And then, you know, as you talked about, MSS, he already buys up a smoke here, maybe hoping to kind of get everyone together, use that Primal War to set things up. But oh, looks like you could say the same thing here for CoL. Black Hole, ready to go. They're on the hunt now. This could be pretty dramatic. Their team fight, pretty dang impressive. Call down, Black Hole. Of course, Swindlemelons' his Dragon Form can dish out the spread, but oh boy, here we go. We might see a head-on clash here.
This is the fight.
Here we go. Who's going to lead things off right now? Uh-oh, MSS. He's going to get caught out. Oh, very unfortunate. Pulled back dead immediately. There'll be nothing. Call down. Requiem trying to push him back, but there's an immediate mech to help him on out. Big stun does come out from NaRv, but look at Moon. He's going to be able to cut him off at the front, and the Black Hole will help secure the decimation of Ush. Make it 3 with his takedown. His Death Requiem not going to be enough to finish anyone off. It's a 3-for-0 trade. Complexity continue to advance on 4, now 9-1. This is very stellar. I don't know, can't help but feel like, was game number 1 a bit too shaky for NaRv? They seem to be out of it quite a bit, or is it just Complexity seem to be absolutely on their A game?
I think it's just CoL being on their A game. That smoke, you would usually see a team like this go for a Roshan or something like that, and NaRv were just trying to pick off 1 or 2 heroes and then go for that top tower, and I think Complexity knew it was up. They gather, show a strength of force, they go as 5. They realize that right now, this is the strongest they're going to be over NaRv, because NaRv doesn't really have a lot of farm on the Lina. They don't really have the necessary levels, and they definitely don't have the heroes to team fight. Like, I think Korok is even going to go down if Moon's able to catch the TP on him.
Oh, meanwhile, top lane, there is a call down. Barely connects. MSS is able to get the Primal Roar off now, and they will take down the Gyrocopter here. Swindlemelon's on the run. No more Dragon Form for him. And all the meanwhile, Korok, who was running up to the north, it seems like he did make his way back towards the bottom with a TP here. So it's a successful pick. They take down the prized Gyrocopter. It's 1 step, but they're going to need a lot more than that. And look, because of their recent victory, you got your Enigma able to finish off his medallion. Good grab for him. Helps out certainly if they want to consider making a go at the Rosh in the near future.
I think that's the plan. Last game, I think that was the plan as well. If you saw with the Undying build, he went for the medallion first. I think the game plan was, let's take a Roshan, give it to some hero like Dragon Knight, let him go high ground, right? Because you just want him to beat on the towers. I think that most of the time you would give it to your carry, but I think this is like one of the few exceptions. If you want to go high ground, I feel like you give it to Swindle so that it doesn't matter if he gets caught out of position. And it takes so long to kill him anyways, right?
Certainly does. He is a tanky knight. Fly, already level 8 on his Rubik. I mean, if you already compare the level difference on the support side of CoL and the support side of NaRv, it's pretty dang dramatic here. But NaRv finally able to get those ultimates together here. We look to Moon, and as you said, the Orchid is going to be the call for him. Actually pretty damn close to it. Already double Oblivion Staff together for him. don't want to risk this Shadow Fiend really being a huge presence as the game does continue on forward.
Yeah, and this is a really disciplined complexity. If you notice, they're not trying to force anything. They're going for smokes, they're going for timings, and they're just kind of playing their hand really well. When you usually see most push teams, what they usually go for is like, they kind of force it a little bit too much, and then they get picked off, and then they lose one fight, and then that's the strategy. Like, they just lost the game. But if you notice complexity, they're going for the pickoffs first. They're trying to weaken the defenses of NaRv so that they can just kind of snowball in.
Uh-oh. Oh, Fog going to run right into trouble. Another smoke movement from CoL is going to be very successful here. They get one. MSS trying to run away. Is he going to be forced to use a roar defensively here? Now Chad was able to make it out. MSS could be as lucky. And it looks like he will. But uh-oh, here comes Moon. Gotcha! But, oh, nice quickity of the tree. MSS will be A-okay. Plus they have the axes, of course, so not going to be able to stop this guy.
Still, you're happy with that. It's 10-2 now in mid.
Oh, Ush. There's telekinesis pullback. Man, Fly again. Always there to set things up, but ooh, nice wand. Oh, didn't even have to use the wand pop right there. Just gets a little bit of extra life and is able to TP away to safety. So, all right, complexity with that rotation to top. They get one support, but don't really get much after that. I think they were expecting to have a bit more, though they didn't have to expend a whole lot for that support.
Yeah, it took one smoke, a few heroes, but you force MSS out of that, and you create a little bit more space for Korok, but you're okay because Korok's so far behind in the game anyways, that you're just trying to keep heroes that are poor as poor as possible, and Fog just trying to make a move here, but I don't think he will be able to do anything off of this.
He's got the Purge, slows him down. Okay, he's getting off a lot of damage on his own here, but he certainly needs the backup. MSS is en route, but really Swindle is going to easily be able to make it away. Plus, he just received his Shadow Blade after all, so really no problem on that. And for bottom, Korok, uh-oh, there's going to be the debut of the Orchid. It's going to be on him, and there's the call down follow-up, and Korok goes down. 0 and 5 for him. Have yet to really see a Laguna Blade even come out for him. This is not looking too good.
Yeah, they're just being picked apart right now. Roshan is going to be the next target. That top tier 2, is it still alive? I'd imagine it is, but it's quite low. Yeah, it's got one hit left on it. The mid tier 2 is down already. I don't think the bottom one has been touched yet, but I imagine that's the next target because the top one is so easy to take. And once you take out all the tier 2s, if you have a little bit of time, you can even go high ground once you pick up 1 or 2 more items.
With that, pretty much easy breezy, uncontested Roche. Would not be surprised. NaRv already know this is happening. They have the Hawk there, and now it's fried chicken. As the Dragon Knight will be able to finish apart. Age is going to be going to the Gyrocopter.
Oh, if MSS dies here.
This is bad. Swindle. Nice. Dragon form, Dragon tail, and he is done for. And now the boar is going to be on the side for Fly. So it just continues to be pick after pick after pick. NaRv just getting caught out of position, but you have to give credit to Complexity on having all these setups, whether they're being sneaky with the smokes and now with the Shadow Blade. They seem to get all the opportunities they could ask for when they decide to go for it.
Yeah, and then going for that pickoff was a really smart idea. If you notice that Swindle ran immediately away from the Roshan because he realizes, okay, we're going to take this without me, so I don't actually have to be here. What I should do is use the Shadow Blade, try to look for some pickoffs, and MSS just slightly out of position, and the Shadow Blade able to catch up to him. And now, I mean, if this is another pickoff, that would be so huge for them.
Ooh, looks like they're saving out that last hit. I thought at first for the Gyro, but looks like it's going to be the Nature's Prophet who will be able to pick it up. Fog almost narrowly getting caught out there, but will be saved for now. Ush is just looking to take advantage of what farm he can elsewhere before he's going to be forced to TP back. Looks like he's building up into a BKB. Not too far off of it, but is a BKB going to be enough at this point for the Shadow Fiend to really make a huge impact in these fights? Because it stands right now, Complexity just feel really far and ahead. They're still going to have that black hole to work with, though he will have to be wary of course, the Primal Roar, after all. But we need a bit of a pause here. Looks like we have one DC on the side of Complexity.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with me here in that I feel like the BKB doesn't change too much? Yeah, Complexity don't have the best way to deal with it, but their heroes are so tanky, right? They've got the Dragon Knight, they've got an Aegis Gyrocopter, they've got a mech on top of that. It doesn't feel like that's going to be the game-changing item that they need. Obviously, it helps, and it's going to help Ush survive and get some damage off, but I really feel like he needs help from somewhere. Like, they need at least 1 or 2 more damage sources to be able to do anything.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, what do you think is going to be enough for NaRv, at this point? But it seems to not just be one magical thing. They need 2, 3 things to be able to really contest this huge impact that Complexity have already been able to make. So it's not looking too good. And even Fly able to put together a Blink Dagger now on his Rubik. He already was making phenomenal setups without the extra mobility tool, but now things might be coming to him a bit easier. Plus, puts him in a better position to get those quick and easy steals, whether it be that Primal Roar, even the Purge, Requiem, what have it. There was a play earlier in the qualifier where Fly dished out probably one of the biggest Requiem turnarounds ever. He stole Requiem and did 1,500 points of damage right back onto the Shadow Fiend. It was out of control. So
yeah, I heard about that. Were you casting for that?
I was. It was ridiculous.
It seems like it's one of his comfort heroes because he's been one of the few players that have been playing it consistently throughout this entire qualifier.
Yeah.
Even though it has like an abysmal win rate, right?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not too sure. And in fact, we have Nahaz here to help us out with that one. But yeah, it's been a bit hit or miss. It's been very profitable for a team like Complexity, though. I mean, like as I said, they're already 4-1, and Fly has definitely been doing some serious work. And Kuro himself might have to look out for Fly, but we'll have to see. It's definitely been working out pretty well.
Oh, Moon's just going to TP to bottom because he sees the 3-man hero rotation into this mid lane, and this is just because NaRv can't really get caught out anymore. How many times have you seen them get individually picked off around the map, and that leads to a tower death?
Too many times.
Yeah, and once that happens, you kind of get the luxury of that the other team respects you so much. Like, every other team is like, okay, I can't really do anything if I move out here by myself. There's a Shadow Blade. Fly is 4-1. All other players are
3-12.
3-12.
So Fly's doing something right, and everyone else needs to get on that, whatever it may be. So with that, though, NaRv, I don't want to say this is a desperation smoke, but this is a crucial one if they want to try to get some momentum back their way. Looks like they're heading towards the south side, but there's no one there to really get a hold of. So we'll see if they try to maybe bait out something from Korok. But look at this, Complexity with another big smoke. The infamous Complexity smoke wraparound.
No, that was the
Oh,
that was
I
when
know.
they were gonna lose the game for sure. So they went for that 1% maneuver, but they're so far ahead in this game.
They're using it, and they're making it actually something that works. They're looking to take that infamous Complexity smoke movement and make it something positive, not something
Fogged.
negative. But, Fogged might be a little too far from the comfort of his team. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Right into trouble. There it is again. The telekinesis pullback, and your Shadow Demon is shadow dead.
Yeah, and that's just good map movement by them. They could even opt to go for this mid tower, but I think that the safer play is to just continue to pick at NaRv, right? You don't have to force anything. If you lose a fight against a lineup like Lina plus Shadow Fiend as the cores, those heroes snowball really quickly. What you have to do, I feel, if your Complexity is play it for the long con, you know, kind of aim for this 40-minute map movement where you can kind of pick people off, and Korok has to be so careful here.
Oh, there's going to be the Yules. He will be able to make it out. Rocket, obviously not going to be there in time. Just a little bit of a distance there. But he'll be fine and safe. I still have not seen him be able to really utilize that Laguna in a successful pick movement right here. It just seems like Complexity, you know, the difference is they don't seem to be typically caught out on their own too much. Oh, I thought I was going to possibly jinx him here, though. Do they have detection? Well, they have the Necro book, but he is pretty dang fast with that Shadow Blade, and looks like NaRv going to be coming up short.
Yeah, once again, as you know, they try to make something happen around the map, but Complexity, it feels like they're just one step ahead of him. Every single time NaRv go for a smoke gank, Complexity knows what's going on. They try to look for a counter gank where they can get the initiation off, and right now it just feels like they're getting outplayed a little bit, but Korok's doing a really good job. He's catching up in farm right now after that kind of poor laning phase that he had with how that aggressive tri-lane went, and I think this is the right idea. Like, try to split up the map, farm it out, and create a tempo where you have to respond, where you have to force Complexity to respond to you. The problem right now is that Complexity still has an objective to take in that bottom tower that they just took. Like, that tier 2 going down between just the gyrocopter and the Enigma is so huge.
Yeah, as you see there, the Silver Edge going to be the choice. Sometimes for DKs, they'll get the Shadow Blade, then they step off, go for something like the BKB, and then look to maybe a Silver Edge as more of a luxury. But what about the viability of the Silver Edge at this point in the game now? You can, of course, use the extra bit of damage. You get the break on, the Inner Beast. You get it on the Fiery Soul, the Presence of the Dark Lord. Is that enough, though, to justify having to go for a Silver Edge right here and now?
No, I think the BKB is still more worth it.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. How close is the Lina to the Aghanim Scepter? I guess if she's really close, okay, she's only 900 gold away, then the BKB means a little bit less because there is still the Roar and that available, but I don't know if that was the item. I think going for something with attack speed like the Assault Cuirass would potentially be better to just start to build towards that rather than going for the Silver Edge, because it's not like you're playing against something like a Bristleback where you absolutely needed to kill somebody.
Ooh, the Rada Owie here on the Enigma. We don't get to see that one too often, but a little bit of extra slow from a long range away. certainly doesn't hurt. And, of course, he gets the extra bit of tank to himself. It's a lot of
It's
fun.
like a Han thing, because I see Minuts do it all the time, and so did Slicks. Like, it feels like it's just something that they kind of understand and they like as an item. And if you think about it too, it really helps the Enigma with utility. Like, slows help so much when you know that the other team's not going to go for BKBs. That's what I said earlier, right? At the beginning, I was like, okay, they have how many BKB carriers that are natural? They've got the Shadow Fiend that's obviously going to get one. But then aside from that, the Lena's item progression is pretty standard. She's going to go for Yule Scepter into the Aghanims, then maybe something like a Blink Dagger. But how often do you see a second item BKB on her or the Beastmaster?
Not very often. So they could look to punish that. Oh man, Moon able to throw together his Necro 3 pretty damn fast here. So we could see that extra split push potential come out from him. Complexity so far I've looked to be very good at being able to take advantage of when they see a good, like, committed move from NaRv to one side of the map and they quickly jump to the other to try to get some extra objectives. So Moon could continue to do that and take advantage of that window of opportunity. But here's Swindle on the high ground here. Ooh, just going to be coming up short to catch out Korok. Korok with that new freaking move speed is going to be able to slide on away and back to home.
If Swindle was like half a second earlier and committed hard for that, I feel like he would have gotten that kill. But it doesn't matter too much whether he gets it or not, because the Lena's got her Aghanim Scepter, and I don't think that's what's going to determine whether they go for the push or not. And I think that's the crucial thing here, is that kills now don't really mean too much for CoL aside from map control. What matters more is that you go for objectives. So I think the next one is get the Roshan, slow down the pace of the game a little bit more, and then just go for whatever tower pushes you can using the setup of the Dragon Knight.
Looks like their first Aegis is going to expire, and the new Roche is already back up and ready to go. Moon has his little scouter right there, and the report is Roche is back, so let's get over there and get her done. NaRv, though, can they even bother looking to contest this kind of a thing?
I think you sort of have to. Like, this is the best possible fight that you're going to get, and Swindle might actually get caught out here.
They have the book, the Primal Roar as he moves in. It doesn't matter if he's under the cover of his Shadow Blade movement. It's not going to matter a whole lot. He gets taken down, and with that, maybe NaRv sneak into the pit. Doesn't seem like it quite yet. Oh, looks like they are going to make the commit to go. He has the Hawk now to scout out the area. They'll see that Moon is obviously nearby. Without their Dragon Knight, it is going to be a bit difficult for them to kind of set something up here.
Big black hole time?
I don't know. Do they have a Blink Dagger? They don't. They went with that Atos, so it might be a bit trickier for them to get in there. Uh-oh. There's the buyback from DK, which means they do want to contest. Call down going to be coming in on the exit point of the Roche pit. Can they stop him from making their way out? MSS, no Primal Roar, obviously, so he's going to be shot on down, but Ush from behind unleashes his Requiem, but there's going to be no focal point quite yet.
Moon!
Chad getting caught out the high ground. Moon, Meander, Furion bringing down the right click from above. They're going to take out 1, 2, and possibly 3 here with the return of Ush. They catch out Korok on the side. He's trying to TP away to safety. He will not make it out. The Nature's Prophet Ulfred going to stop him on out. Ush will be going down as well. It's a 4-man drop, and it could be 5 here if Fogged is caught out. Moon trying to get the Sprout. Oh, he's looking to cut him off. Hi, how you doing right there? Drops down the Sprout, and it looks like it is going to be a 5-man wipe. A triple kill for Moon Meander. Very impressive defense of the Roche coming out from Complexity.
They were going to fight that every single time, because the type of positioning that NaRv were in, you're okay with fighting the Roshan fight, even if the other team has the Aegis, because of the positioning advantage that you have. You're grouping into a team that has to funnel slowly out of that tunnel, right? So you're going to take that fight every single time, and Moon played that so well. He goes for the TP onto the high ground, doesn't give the Shadow Fiend any sort of opportunity to get damage off on him, and then he just starts picking them off on the high ground. Like, the SF can't fight into it, the Dazzle goes down as well, and man, Moon just played that fight so perfectly.
Oh man, Complexity tasting that sweet trip to Seattle to compete at TI5. It just seems so close now. They're able to take down that tier 3 and they get 1 Rax already. That seemed to segue just so beautifully for them. They put up the good Roche fight and they still have enough oomph to kind of take it down the mid lane with the back end of that Dragon form plus all those summons to do some serious work. So look at that. Whew. That is a serious drop on the graph from both sides, both net worth and gold, about that 12K mark. Is there coming back now for NaRv at this point, or are you already thinking this is seeming a bit too grim and we might need to kind of think about what could be ahead of us in the lower bracket? I don't want to make it too grim sounding for them, but it just seems like it's going to be very difficult for NaRv to find their way back into this groove.
All right. I don't want to be the type of person that lies for hype, so I'm going to say the likelihood of NaRv being able to win this game is low. It's not impossible, but they would have to have a lot of things swing for them, like in their favor. Like, they'd have to be able to burst down the Enigma and the Dragon Knight before they get anything off. And Ush would have to get the perfect Requiem. Okay, he's just going to get caught out here.
Yeah, well, the perfect Requiem might have to be saved for another day and another game because Ush is hard to watch at that point. Complexity easily move in. How many smoke movements have we seen where they're able to still end up profiting here? And speaking of profit, Moonmeander himself tries to get a catch out onto MSS, but it's not going to be there. Chad, he's trying to hide in the dark. Oh, God, I got to use this TP or something to make it away. Fly makes a jump up, but he's not going to be there. And uh-oh, there is no TP. There is no way back home. Uh-oh, Chad, got to get caught out, got to get pulled back and assaulted. He goes down. Ziz now dominating on his gyrocopter. It's 3-20. Dream is almost real here for Complexity. My God, who is this Complexity team? They look so damn good. Would not have expected this when I was doing my compendium predictions, I tell you what.
Have you been watching my facial expressions this entire game? I'm like blown away. I just have no idea what's going on. It feels like CoL's map movement is so precise. Like even Hani's like, what the? I was like, I didn't expect this, and I didn't either. Like he thought that NaRv2 was gonna win. I thought after the other day where Mouse looked a little bit weak that NaRv2 was gonna win. I mean, Twitch chat was right for us. Like
Twitch chat is right. Not as convincing, but they definitely felt the favorite was going to be for Complexity here, and they certainly seem to be right. Now moving in from the northern side of the NAR base, they're able to easily take down the Tier 3. A weave does go out, but at the same moment, Primal Roar in exchange for the call down. Laguna flies out into Ziz, but he's going to get saved with the shallow grave that had been stolen from Fly. Very nice. Korok gets his own grave. Osh dishes out a pretty good Requiem, but it's right into a black hole. Now the hole will be stopped, and he continues to fight forward. The gyrocopter will go down. Osh, though, got to be dropped. He's out for over a minute. No buyback, and MSS, with nothing left to use, will go down, and it's looking pretty damn solid for Complexity as they will be able to advance through this upper bracket. Oh boy, what do we do now? 5-22. Right, Korok does move in, gets the Yules, the LSA, and looks like they'll be able to get a nice pick. And every little bit certainly gives them a good gold swing and an XP boost, but if you look at their base, you just know the damage. It has been done, Blitz.
Yeah, I think they still have their range rack, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but that's not the one that you want to... that you're like, oh, sweet, we saved our range racks. And the bottom tier 3 tower as well, it's pretty open for them to take. And Mega Creeps, there's no way that NaR returns from that.
Yummy.
Like, there's just no lying about that. Because think about the lineup they have. They don't have enough farm on the SF. He doesn't have something like a Butterfly and a Satanic to be able to do anything like clear Mega Creeps. The Lina as well, I don't think she has enough farm. I mean, they just don't have enough farm to deal with this right now.
So as we saw, Fly steals Laguna and has an Ags as well. So
he's Lina number 2, and Fly's played this game so well. I have terrible vision, so I can't actually check his score through the screen. Okay, he's 4-1-10 so far, and his positioning this game has been really good. Like, he's been able to steal really relevant spells this game, and to be able to steal the Laguna Blade with an Aghanim Scepter on your own, I don't even know how he got an Ags. I guess it's just the gold advantage that they have from taking all the objectives, but still, he's been playing really well this game.
Again, I feel like I'm almost a broken record whenever I've been, had the opportunity to... What the hell was that? Was that a taunt?
Yeah, he just does that sometimes.
Okay. Never seen that before.
It's the happiness thing.
Yay! We're going to Seattle!
Yeah, one team is sad, obviously, and I feel really bad for NaR if they lose this game, but you got to be happy for CoL. Like, they weren't projected to do nearly this well.
Uh-oh, Primal Roar. They might be able to get the catch on Swindle, who's trying to be sneaky, but they had that Sentry Ward and obviously the extra bit of vision. He does go down. So it's another pick in the direction of NaR, but step 1 of a 10-step program to get back in this game, as I like to say. 7-22 now. But as I was going to say before I was distracted from that crazy little taunt right there, for Fly in particular, when we cast his games, he's always the one there to set everything up. That's why he's got so many assists. He gets to participate so much. He gets this gold. He gets this farm. And I'm also curious. I don't know if anyone of you know, is he the shot caller for this team? The one that makes the plays and says where we need to go, when and where?
That would be something that you probably ask Connie after this, but he is? He's not? Okay, Swindle.
Ah.
Yeah, I think I heard that as well, because I actually rang for them in 2 games, and one time I played support and I forgot to buy a courier, and my nut said American subs, and he was making fun of me, but yeah, he seemed to be the person that had like the overall game plan. He was telling everybody what to do. It seemed like he had a firm grasp on the leadership role. The only thing I thought was, when I walked away from when I scrimmed with him even 3 or 4 times, was he's a little bit inexperienced. Like, his calls are good, but it doesn't seem like he knows the game well enough quite yet. But it feels like he's kind of closed that knowledge gap now, and this game clearly isn't over yet. I mean, NaRv2 can still hold.
Yeah.
They need 1 or 2 more fights like that. If they don't lose the racks, they could come back into the game. But from here on out, they have to play perfectly. Like, no more mess-ups. Nobody else can get picked off before a push. Like, this has to be as clean as possible.
Korok forced forward, blink in, then quickly realizes I might have made a mistake here. Ziz is there. The rocket's going to be out. But it looks like they also will pull back. Complexity, they already have a firm grasp on a solid lead. They don't want to get a bit overzealous and put themselves in a bit of a bad situation when they don't have all 5 nearby and ready to go. So good heads-up play from them. And, yeah, just to reflect back a bit when we're talking about, Swindle might have been inexperienced. He's used to kind of working around his Han buddies and has this team. But now you got people like Fly in your squad, who's a very experienced player. Maybe they're learning a lot from each other, and they seem to have found a groove that is working for them. And I'm definitely getting anxious to see how they could match up potentially against some of the other teams across the other regions here. So with that, we continue to truck on. We're still looking for hope here for NaRv to find their way back into this game. There hasn't been any sort of relative action on the side of Complexity yet, which is always good for NaRv, but what do they really need to kind of step it up? MSS obviously already has his book complete, but now you're looking at a DK who's able to throw together his BKB. Won't matter too much when you got Korok, of course, with your Ags, but what are they going to need to do? Is it all more on their high ground defense? Maybe a bit of a misstep, misplay coming up from Complexity, and they're able to punish on it?
What they have to do is they have to bait Complexity to get as far into their base as possible, and then just fight around the towers and fight around the superior map positioning. You have to probably expend at least 1 buyback on a core hero. The problem right now, though, is after the Beastmaster uses the Roar, after he pops his Necro Books, him buying back doesn't add enough to the team fight for it to matter too much. And then the Lina would probably be the next person up. But the Shadow Fiend as well, if you look at his item build, I think he's got like an S and Y. Like, he just doesn't have enough snowball potential right now. Like, mech doesn't mean so much in these fights anymore. Even the BKB, like, the amount of magic damage that Complexity have is enough for him to get that BKB. But at the same time, it's not a game-breaking item like you normally see.
Roche conveniently spawns up right when Complexity wanted to, and they're going to be able to go in and really put it to work.
Those trees.
Oh, they're not really going for it here. They dish out the early weave, and Complexity not really happy about this. They decide to kind of move elsewhere here.
I think they're just going to wait out the weave. They've got a deity on the Dragon Knight. Like, this is an ideal fight for them. NaRv realized that if they give up this Aegis, they're just going to get high grounded with the next push, right? So you have to try to take this fight. If they lose this fight, the game could be over. But if they win it, then it resets.
It does. Hawk was taken down here. They're looking to smoke in from the south. Poison flies out. Ooh, Swindle is there. This is NaRv's time. They're looking to jump in. Primal Roar is onto the 1 here. Fly jumps in, trying to go for the quick snag. He's going to get the Primal Roar. He uses it right back onto Ush, but the call down already there. But Korok was able to quickly pick off the Swindle DK. Now Ush on the retreat. NaRv, no, they can't run from the black hole. Golden Glory out on the field as they're able to wipe out 4 all day. Korok is going to be forced to buy back. Fogged, weak, and wounded, has to retreat back to base. It's another successful fight for Complexity. They hold strong, and they're already on the move. The top lane loses its second Rax. Moon Meander is there to help out. Korok going to get sprouted up. Orchid is online. Defensive disruption, and my God, Fog goes down damn fast. Moon Meander hitting like a truck at this point as he has that Desolator ready to go. Plus the Vlads, which you got to remember is a new bonus for those ranged cores. And oh no, this is not good. That was the fight that NaRv needed, and they didn't get it.
I wasn't paying attention right now to the Roche timer because of the Moon Meander thing, but did they even get it, or did they just completely skip ahead and say, no, this game's over, we're just going to end it right now?
I believe it was that.
Yeah, they just gave, yeah.
They make the right call, and there you have it, folks. It's going to be Complexity who best NaRv 2-0 in this upper bracket winner final of the TI5 America Qualifiers, and congratulations to them. They have guaranteed a trip to Seattle and to TI5. Whether it be in the wild card or whether it be a direct in fight, we'll find out tomorrow.
Regardless of how far they go in the rest of the tournament, I think they're going to be extremely pleased with this result. Like, going to TI, no matter what, even through the wild card, it gives you a certain measure of confidence to be able to even get there. And I think it kind of validates your goals as a competitive player, because imagine if Complexity doesn't get there and they're like, oh, next time, and it's like, what are we really fighting for? But you get to taste TI. I think that's not something that washes out really quickly. It's like, wow, like, we can get there. We just need a little bit more time. Like, look how far we've come in this short period of time just being in a team house together. Look what we've accomplished. I feel like it's just another motivating layer.
A huge boost for them, a huge boost of confidence. I'm really looking forward to see how they will do in the grand final coming tomorrow, but we'll find out more about that, as after this we'll get to go into the lower bracket. But we have back with us the handsome Purge,
the very handsome Hani.
Okay.
Ooh. No, that's okay.
I'm just kidding.
You're
Purge.
right.
I love you.
Stick up for yourself, man.
That's your job. You got
Dude,
it.
he's handsome in his own right.
They're both beautiful people here. Now,
Thank
my
you. You don't have
beautiful,
to add the
beautiful
very.
friends.
Thanks,
you,
man. You almost
Anyway.
made it better.
Hani, we'll start with you. What the hell happened out there? What were your thoughts about that second match? Seemed a bit more clear-cut for Complexity.
I think overall you just have to give it a complexity. They just played the better team game. I think the one thing to stand out for me is just overall decision making and timings of complexity were spot on. They went for ganks, they got pickoffs, and they always resulted into tower pushes. Whereas on the side of NaRv, I just felt like they were very disconnected. I think Korok on an offlane position where he needs to rather play passive, such as with Alina, he doesn't really seem to be the player that can do that well, or maybe he hasn't been in the position where he's forced to do so. As where you see him in a mid position, he's a very aggressive player, so it didn't really seem to be his game. And I think that also throughout this entire series, I just think Complexity played better as a team.
They really did. It just seemed like every time they went out and had their smoke movements, they came up with exactly what they were intending to do. It was very profitable for them, and they never let go of that momentum. Purge, what'd you think, man? Complexity, they look like the team to beat.
Yeah, they played really well, and most importantly, I think NaRv didn't get nearly enough out of their try lane. And like you said, Korok was in a position where he had to play from behind. And I think it really came down to those first couple kills where the disruption into Shadow Poison, and they are not Shadow Poison, Shadow Wave, sorry. And they didn't get enough out of them. They never got the Shadow Wave off. It was always the lift from Fly on the Dazzle. It's pretty tough as Dazzle to time it right because you have to cast Shadow Poison right when disruption ends. And Fly's Telekinesis on Rubik is an instant cast, so it's like a duel there. If you get the Shadow Wave off, you do a bunch of damage to the Rubik and you can maybe pick off the kill. But if you're a little bit too late, then Rubik lifts the Dazzle and it completely stops the damage burst. And because it's a Shadow Demon and a Dazzle, if you don't get the Shadow Wave off, you don't do damage. And you do have some right clicks, but it's not enough. So by losing those couple first kills and eventually feeding the first blood, their tri lane went far worse than they needed to. That put Korok in a back behind position. Imagine if they got a couple kills and they got that advantage there. They could have definitely stomped the top tri lane as long as they were careful with Enigma rotations, and that just put them on the back foot the whole game. MSS naturally farmed a ton because he's very good at 1v1s and farming with the pig, and the mid lane went pretty good with Ush only dying once. At some point he had like 80 CS versus the 40 of his opponent. It was insane. But because the top tri lane didn't go well enough, they couldn't turn it into their game where they go aggressive. And to make matters worse, Complexity just moved around the map perfectly.
So you can see the numbers right there on the board. Standouts, obviously. We know Fly has been putting in some serious work. Got a miraculously great time Blink, and then followed up with the Agnums. He goes 4-1. Moon Meander, we haven't really seen a lot of him playing the Furion, but he certainly did impress as well, going 9-1. Bit of a wash in his lane matchup against MSS. Maybe got outfarmed a bit, but later on he seemed to be there every time to make those fights happen and maybe add a little bit of that split pressure to take objectives. So what do you think, Blitz? Is this going to be another MVP Fly kind of a game? I mean, it'd be easy to say that Complexity as a whole just kind of played great, but was there any special standout you'd have to say?
I thought that, again, Complexity as a whole, there's no real standout play from them. They kind of just like blend together. They play the game as a group. But if I had to give like one player standout performance, I was super impressed with Moon Meander. I thought in that second game, he pretty much just like bulldozed through the entire NaRv lineup, and it felt like he just was creating everything on the map, right? He TPs top, they get kills, they go for the push, he TPs mid. He's always in position to get behind people and get the sprout off, so that if they're forced behind him, then he can just right-click them to death, or his team manages to catch up. And the way that he fought that Roshan fight as well, the really crucial one, he goes TPs on top of the hill, realizes that if he just TPs in front of them, he's going to get picked off. He TPs on top of the hill where NaRv have no vision. He's able to just like plink away. He gets 3 kills as a result of that and just kind of ends the game by himself right there.
So props to Moon Meander, of course, with that great Furion play. But, I want to take a moment to talk about NaRv. Now that we know that they're not going to be able to advance on forward in the upper bracket, they await the results of the next matchup that we're going to be seeing after this one, which is Mouse Sports taking on Void Boys. Now, it's easy to say that they're going to be hoping for a matchup with Void Boys, given that they've already 2-0'd them. But what do you think about the mental state now for NaRv? How do they look to kind of shake this one off and make sure that they don't let it get to them too much so that they can stand up and perform? Is there any sort of trick? You guys are the players. You know that when you take a hard loss like that, you're 0-2, but you still have that fighting chance to keep that Seattle dream alive. What's the key points? Hani, I'll start with you.
I guess the important part is just since they came out of a like they had the chance to fail once, right? Now against Complexity, they lost this best of 3 series. They still have another chance. So overall, I would not say they're out of it, or I would go into a mental state where I feel very struggled. Because sure, in this series, the second game seemed rather odd. You know, they were not as strong as in the first game, but I think they should be still fairly well going into the next upcoming series.
Would you agree with that, Purge? Is there any sort of trick to keep yourself, making sure your head's strong, just as a team you look to come together and go, guys, it's okay. We're very confident that we can go into our next series, that we're going to be the stronger opponent, and we'll get that chance to, rematch Complexity, hopefully in the grand final?
Yeah, it's one of the nice things about the position. Everybody talked about, if you get first in your bracket, you only have to win 1 game. But I think the better thing is that you could lose once and still make it in. You had to win 1 best of 3 out of 2 best of 3s. Which is a pretty good shot, right? Because if they do win against the winner of Mousesports Void Boys, they rematch and automatically go to TI, right? That's pretty good chances there. And even though they may have had a demoralizing defeat here, they still have a really good shot. They're playing against the lesser performing teams that have been playing in the qualifiers. And obviously, it looks like Complexity is maybe likely to take the grand finals against them if they do rematch. But getting to TI alone is going to be a really big deal for them. So I think they could do it.
All right, so with that, we're going to get to wrap things up. We've concluded our first series of the winner bracket final. But coming up after this, we get to see the matchup now of Void Boys taking on Mousesports. That's going to be coming up in just a moment. It's been a pleasure bringing you the coverage here. Myself, Blitz, of course, Purge, and Hani. Shout-outs to Nahaz, our statsman, and Obs, Pitmunkle. With that, we'll come back in a few moments' time for our next series. We'll see you soon.
Always pushing, always taking towers. Fissure here on the fan. He gets tossed up to the high ground. What a play! Are you kidding me?
We're not even at TI5 yet. This is just the qualifiers.
This is a pocket strat. Okay, he's actually losing this regular play. He's going to have to blink down.
I think this is better. I think this is
it's
vastly better.
I don't think he even won
That's
a full
a tough
Bristleback.
kill. That's a tough kill.
It is a tough kill. Bristleback's even tougher, but I'm saying I don't think he'll be able to get anyone else. Maybe not. He does
tried.
get fan.
Yeah, that's a big kill if they get it. The mech's going to get used fan, dropping low.